Good evening. The Design Review Board 2 public meeting of May 7th, 2009 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You'll be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Baladian.
Present.
Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Garagos.
Here.
Mr. Malikian.
Here.
And Mr. Zarifian is absent. Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on April 30th, 2009. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item that's not a part of this agenda? Nope. Any cards?
We don't have any cards.
Next on the agenda is the review calendar staff announcements. I've got three. The first one is we are canceling the May 21st meeting, so your next meeting will be June 4th.
Okay.
The second announcement is I put on your table flyers for the Commission on the Status of Women, a presentation called Women at the Table, and it's how to get appointed to a citizen board or commission like the Design Review Board. It's being held on the 1st of June from 6 to 7:30 at the Alex Theater. And the third announcement item I had was Alex Zarifian is absent again. He apologizes. He is actually ill now, but he is sorry that he can't make the meeting.
Okay.
All right. That concludes the my announcements. There's nothing on the consent calendar. We're down to the regular agenda.
Okay. Are we ready for the Vertigo project? Okay. Let's go ahead and start.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The project before you with the case number 2 PDR 2009-012 is located at 2027 to 2033 Verdugo Boulevard. Basically, the project consists of facade renovation, which includes storefront upgrades to two existing commercial buildings in the C2 zone. An historic marker commemorating the historic site of the Indian Spring will be placed on this site. The larger of the two buildings, building number 1, contains a Vans supermarket, restaurants, and other commercial uses. The smaller building, building number 2, contains retail stores. Building number 1 will have a double-height pavilion over the proposed outdoor dining area in the front of the Vans supermarket entrance. There is a new building proposed on the eastern portion of the site, which is located in the city of La Cianada, Flint Ridge. The design of the project will match the design of this proposed new commercial building in the city of La Cianada, which has recently been approved by that city's authorities. The buildings have craftsman influence in their proposed design. The project consists of a canopy extension over the new outdoor dining area for Vans supermarket, storefront window replacement, new roofing, new trees, and additional landscaping. The existing signage for the various tenant will remain with the exception of the one's sign, which will be relocated to the double height pavilion. Access to the parking area is from Verdugo Boulevard. The site is an irregular shape and developed with single-story commercial buildings. Building number 1 is located in the center of the site, and building number 2 is located in the eastern portion of the site and straddle the city of Glendale and city of La Cianada border. The proposed outdoor dining area at the entry to the Vons supermarket is located on access with the existing driveway to the site from Verdugo Boulevard and will necessitate the removal of 4 parking spaces, the addition of an outdoor dining area, and the replanting of the existing planters along the walkway in front of the buildings will encourage pedestrian activity. The layout of the parking area remains mostly unchanged. 4 parking spaces will be removed. 5 new parking stalls to the north of the building number 2 will be added, and the recycling bin, which is currently located adjacent to Verdugo Boulevard, will be relocated near the trash can west of building number 1 at the rear of the site. While the existing landscape islands will remain unchanged, upgrading the landscaping contained within these areas is proposed. Improvements consist of new ground cover, shrubs, and trees in the existing planters along the building's walkway and within the parking area. The existing building on the sites are 1-story, and the project does not propose to make any changes to the height of the building. This is except for a small section where a double-height pavilion is proposed above the Vons entrance and outdoor dining area. The pavilion will increase the height of the building from 20
point which is visible from the entrance to the site highlights the main entry and provide the location for historic marker commemorating the Indian Spring site.
The proposed design takes advantage, as I said before, of the approved design of the adjacent building, introducing the style, details, and material in the facade upgrade of the subject buildings. These include new exterior finishes, materials, colors, details, and textures inspired by the craftsman. While the main structural elements such as columns and skeleton of the buildings will remain, these elements will be wrapped with cultured stone veneer at the base, enhanced with corbels to the existing beams, new sand finish stucco, and slate-like roofing material. The storefront windows will be replaced with dark bronze anodized aluminum frame. The existing signage for various tenants will remain at their current location, except for ones which will have its sign relocated to the pavilion. The proposed pavilion creates, as I said before, a focal point, a location for the one sign, and break up the roofing mass. I'm going to go over history of the marker. A small wooden canyon beneath the current parking lot on the site featured dozens of oak trees and natural spring almost all year round. Historically, the local Tongva Indian tribe gathered here to drink, collect acorns for food, and escape from the heat in the shades of the trees. The entrepreneur Charles Bowden, who had black Indian roots,
Blackfoot Indian roots, built a Native American themed resort, Indian Spring, in this canyon in 1928, and developed a program designed to help preserve Native American customs. Visitors entered the spot from Verdugo Road through a distinct stucco arch marking the site of Indian Springs. A landmark drive-through archway led to a winding road down into the canyon. For the next 38 years, the large pool, tennis courts, and picnic grounds were the home away from home for many generations of Crescenta Valley youth and their families. In the 1960s, the aging pool developed a large crack. It was then considered financially unfeasible to repair the pool, and the resort was closed. In 1966, the canyon was filled with dirt from the construction of the Verdugo Hill Hospital just up the hill. The shopping center that remains on the now level lot was built in 1971. The proposed design acknowledges Indian Spring historic value by including the historic marker located on the side of the outdoor dining area. This is an appropriate location for the marker because it creates the opportunity for visitor and shopper to notice it and not just pass by. The city has no requirement or financial interest in the marker and will not review its design. However, the city considered the inclusion of the marker a positive step towards providing public awareness of the site's history. The proposed design of the historic marker incorporates the arch, which was originally the entrance to the Indian Spring. I'm going to approach the board and explain further as to this. Okay, this is the pavilion which is proposed at the entrance to the ones. It's a double height pavilion. The marker is proposed to the side. Actually, on the next. The marker is proposed under. To the side of the dining area under the pavilion. The 4 parking stalls will have to be removed and will be replaced by 5 new stalls on the top of or adjacent to the building number 2. The buildings in the La Cianada Flint Street, I've got some drawing here so you can compare them together. And as I mentioned, the design of the proposal matches the already approved or recently approved design of next door building. You can see there that the location of the main building, building number 1, building number 2, and that is the building in the La Cianada.
That's what it's approved over there?
That is what is approved, and this is
And that
elevation.
was under our jurisdiction?
No, it's under their jurisdiction. It's just that the building number 2 is over the property line. And city, it's not probably that way, but that would connect the 2 lots, even though that would be still in the city of La Cianada and under their jurisdiction. The site is essentially unchanged. The proposed design of the 2 facades are appropriate for the neighborhood, and staff recommend approval of the project. This concludes my presentation. If there is any question, be glad to answer.
Thank you. Bob Taylor.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Taylor, with Nakaishi Associates Architects. This project originally
Can you
started-
state your address also?
Sure. It's 2910 West Broadway, City of Los Angeles. This project originally started out as an upgrade to match the new building, and with subsequent meetings with the design studio, we've added the pavilion, and we've added space for this historical marker. And since this has been submitted, we've gotten some more feedback from Vons itself, who will be doing an interior remodel of the entire store, and they would like to add another entrance to the storefront. And I have a drawing that shows the revised.
Were you involved in the that design?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And if you'd like to take a
Yes.
look.
Thank you.
Okay.
The drawing will show two biparting sliding doors, one at either end of the existing storefront. Of course, the color and materials will all stay the same. Included with that package of drawings is a site plan that has been revised. We're working with the recycling company that operates the recycling center that's located at the front near the entrance to the center. And they have been talking with us. There's three options of where we might locate that, but no definitive location at this time. But the idea is to get it away from the front of the center.
Any proposals for any of the upgrade to any of the landscape or anything that
Yes,
is on
we're
the...
increasing the number of landscape planters in the parking area. They're shown on the site plan and on the landscape plan.
What about the landscape buffer that is here? Anything here?
That is all existing, and it will.
There's nothing, pretty much
It's ground cover and then
ground
some
covers.
trees.
Anything that is being proposed there, or?
No, it's all existing.
You guys own this also?
Yeah, that's
Existing?
it's all existing. It's rock. It's a cut rock face.
Okay.
Some questions if there
One last question, and before Mr. I'm glad that there's openings, but any reason none of these openings were aligned or somehow worked with these pavilion that was so-called a pavilion?
The pavilion was suggested by Alan Loomis to align with the main driveway, the entrance to the center, and
You're
He asked that-
replacing all that storefront, we're putting all these new storefronts and doors.
That's
and
correct.
Why aren't you?
that's correct. The doors have to meet code requirements for the Vons interior improvements. So that's why we have two new entrances now, one at either end of the existing opening. These are concrete tilt-up buildings, so we're dealing with an existing opening.
Well, most of these openings are happening within the storefront section. There's nothing new being opened as far
That's
as I can
correct.
see.
That's correct. So we have to deal with an existing opening, and we have to deal with the code requirements for the Vons improvements. We also have to deal with the existing structure on the outside. We were asked to provide a pavilion that met the size and scale of the proposed pavilion on the adjacent property. And to do that, we needed to use two column bays to support it.
Yeah, I said a couple things. Is that roof structure that is coming out, is that the existing roof structure that you're using, or are you reframing that?
It's reframing, that's all new.
You're only maintaining the glue lamp? There's a note in there about the glue lamp.
Yes, we're maintaining the glue lamp and removing the existing mansard at that location of the pavilion. The rest
Just
of
the rest of it is the same framing?
yes, same framing,
Okay, the
roofing material.
existing parapet has a slope to it. You're showing it as a vertical?
Yes.
Are you making it vertical?
We're making it vertical
Okay.
to match the new
Okay,
building.
that's great. I'm glad you're doing that. Okay. The one thing about the replan on the site plan, are you proposing or you're hoping that it's going to be at the back of the building or to the side of the building? Or is all the discussion about still keeping it at the street?
Early on, it was we were trying to get it away from the front. But because of the way this recycling center operates, they have these bins that need to be moved. We need to have maneuvering space for it. And then we also like to minimize the number of parking spaces that they occupy. So we're in talks with the recycling center. There are different configurations that we can use that minimize the amount of space that they take up in the parking area. But we haven't come to a decision yet on exactly where it's going to be.
But all the discussions are basically to have it in the same location?
No, in a different location.
Different location?
Yes, away
Because
from...
I think that would be an issue whether it stayed in the same location or not.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, nobody would agree that it looks good in that location.
Okay, the other thing, it's, all the main mullions on the windows are going to be the bronze? That's the bronze?
That's the dark bronze anodized aluminum, yes.
Okay, the other thing was, I guess it all comes down to what's going to happen with the Replan It, because that corner is kind of the unfortunate stepchild of the project. So, I mean, it would be nice if, it all depends on what's going to happen with Replan It, because if it goes, you then have a lot of space beyond what would be required for backup there, that you could put a nice planting strip near the sidewalk and really do that up nicely. If Replan It's there, obviously you have some maneuver issues too, but, and actually I didn't realize that it's actually still going to stay there. I thought it was going in back, otherwise I would have asked staff how that affects all the parking spaces that you would lose where Replan It sits.
Well, Replan It is occupying parking spaces now. So when we relocate it to some other location further back from the entrance, it will occupy hopefully the same or less number of spaces.
Yeah, because I think if that's the intent of this proposal, then, anyway, we'll talk about it later, but that's fine. The also other thing, as a many-year resident and hearing the stories, I want to compliment you about that narrative that we're going to be putting on the plaque, or that you're going to be putting on the plaque. You'll have the whole narrative on the plaque?
Mr. Mike Lawler is here from the Historical Society.
The whole narrative will be on it? That's really great. That's really wonderful. My dad told me stories about it, going there for picnics, and it's really great that you're doing that. And on that same line, what are you going to do with the little well that's right on the front? What's going to happen with that?
We'd like to remove it.
Really? So it won't be something in keeping with the style that there won't still be an element there? Like
No,
that? There won't be an element.
I
Okay.
think they may replace it with a monument sign.
And your intent with all the structure on that new framing is that it's essentially a stuccoed element imitating the wood that would be painted?
Yes,
That's true of the soffit and all of that? In it?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Last question. Essentially, this new door that you're putting in, based on the exiting of the... You want to come around?
Yes, thanks.
The way I read this, the new door is going to be here. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we have an existing door here.
Right.
Biparting, sliding,
Right.
and this is another door that will match, same size, but at the other end of the opening.
Okay, so where's the new opening? Are you putting
This
one-
is the new opening.
Okay, this is the new opening.
Yes.
And there's no opening within this area?
There is an opening here.
There's a post there.
That is a,
So all I'm trying to figure out is if people, this is going to be a focal point for people to drive up and go. And once they get here, are they going to be able to get into the building from there?
yes.
I don't see that.
This is the most direct route into the building.
Can you show it on the elevation of the entrance?
Yeah, let me go to this revised one here. We have the new pavilion, which projects, we have our sliding doors here, and then we have our new sliding doors this side.
Well, the upper portion, I mean, the symmetry, I mean, it's out of center. I mean, I don't know, you need to revisit that.
Well, this aligns with the driveway.
With the driveway.
And, we complied with the request.
You couldn't realign the,
Or do a double post at both sides?
Yeah, we
Center
have
effect.
3 posts here supporting this new canopy and the pavilion.
But just as the dining area that's been spoken of is in the
It will be below this canopy
not in the pavilion, because the pavilion's an entryway, right? So it's
Well, no, it is, this
Is-
pavilion is double wide.
okay.
It
So
has-
it's on one side of the
Yes,
pavilion.
it'll be on this
And
side.
what are the cement tables?
There'll be tables and chairs,
I mean, fixed or?
probably fixed.
I mean, normally you see a supermarket cement. So is it of that nature,
I
probably?
would think so.
You have this parking.
I think what's not clear on the drawing is that you do have an element that's out in front of the lower roof. You're not seeing that element, the double wide element.
You know, there's,
Now, are they showing, is that like a half wall that's obscuring shopping carts or something? Is that what they're doing?
yes, we're providing a new cart corral in front between the two openings.
Now, is that happening at the furthest out post
No,
or
it'll
further
be
back?
closer up to the building. The revised floor plan shows the location of the corral.
I have one more question. While you're here, how come we don't have landscape? This location. You have the sidewalk and then you have the paving, and no landscaping planners.
Yeah, that was the element I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
If I,
But
that
this
is,
is the, what is this area that you're having outdoor?
This is a restaurant at this location. We want to expand the sidewalk so they can have some outdoor seating.
But
that is
do
the
they-
location of the recycling bin currently, and there are park.
Recycling bin is in the front.
Yeah,
Open it right here.
in the front there.
That's where it is
Now,
now.
wait a minute.
But he's talking about the top.
Later,
Oh, so you're
We're
thinking
going to
of
expand
moving,
the sidewalk so that they can have outdoor seating here.
okay, and then you're going to move it back.
The existing recycling center is right here. We're going to relocate it somewhere back and away from this entrance, but
So
we
you're
don't
gonna put it
know.
right here?
That's where it is now.
That's where.
And then we don't know where it's going to be yet.
What are you doing with this one?
That is, right now, is an existing trash enclosure.
Is it remaining?
It'll remain, but we thought that we could modify it to, so that we can relocate this here, but it may not work out in this location because of the maneuvering requirements.
Approximately, how much you have between this
It's the required backup for parking.
parking?
Yeah.
Okay.
25
One
feet.
thing that I would like to ask your consideration, you have this loading dock, which is about 60 footers. They're backing into that loading space.
Yes.
And then you have people sitting here. Are you proposing any bollard or protection when people are eating
All
here?
the deliveries come before the store is open.
Well, you never know. I see sometimes, delivering it in the afternoon, emergency delivery, and then you have this truck backing up here, and you have people sitting here. And you need to give some consideration
I have,
or relocate it somewhere.
I have a representative from Bonds here who may be able to.
Yeah, if I may, our understanding, and this is maybe addressed to the applicant, our understanding was that the outdoor dining area would be near or under the pavilion area where the main entry is. Was that a misunderstanding on our part, or has that moved?
No, that is correct, and it is in the same location under the pavilion. This is an additional widening of the sidewalk adjacent to this existing restaurant to provide some outdoor seating.
So that's information that was not on the drawings that staff did not have when we were preparing the
Yes,
report.
it's always been on the drawings.
So the backup you have there is 24 feet or 20, what do you
It's
have?
25 feet. Yes.
But for loading trucks, semis, I think you're making it, already it's narrow.
We're not making it that much wider. It's maybe
You're
2
narrowing
feet. No, we're making this sidewalk 2 feet wider.
I know, but you're taking away from the driveway.
And you think
And
that
this
2 feet is gonna make a
semis, you
difference?
need wider than that.
I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have to add that they would need a variance for the recycling bin being located where it is proposed.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. If it stays in the same location, what happens? They operate under an existing permit, or what?
I believe they still need a variance. They no permit for it.
I believe it's
What-
an existing code violation.
Yes.
Oh, it is a code violation. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay. Is that something that needs to be addressed, and it'll be addressed as part of all this?
Well, they are addressing it in the way that they're removing it from the current position, and relocating it would require variance.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it Lee Ducart? Mike Lawler?
My name is Mike Lawler, and I live in La Crescenta. I'm in favor of the project as designed. I've been here several times to oppose projects, but this time I'm here to say that this applicant gets it as far as the overall look is concerned. It doesn't look like it just dropped out of the sky. It's designed in a way that fits in with the feel of the community. And one of my preferred architectural styles is Craftsman, in particular the stone and wood facade as seen here. And then as the president of the Historical Society, I'd like to thank the applicant for working with the city and the Historical Society on this historical marker, and I think it'll be a great addition to the community and also help to get people out of their cars and walking around in front of the building. I wanted to talk a little bit about the well that you mentioned too, because the applicant did discuss that with me extensively and was very concerned about what reaction there would be on the part of the community to removal of that. But so I just would like to say that it would not be my first choice to remove it, but I don't have any problem with it either. It's not historical, other than it's been a recognizable image during the time that Vaughn's has been on this site. But there never was a well on the site, and wells in the area don't look like that anyway. And it really bears no relation to the Indian Springs Resort that was there previously. So that's my take on that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add? No? Okay. Then we'll close the public session. Who would like to go first?
I'll go. I'm very happy that you're doing it. I think it's a great project. Looking forward to it. Just a few of the elements I think that are important that I think would make it more successful. And I'm only saying this just as a means of clarification. I just would like it noted that upper parapet is made vertical. That's all, just so it was clarified. There's just something in it about furring on it with a note. I just want to make sure that it didn't stay as it was. But that's their intent, is to make it vertical, so just to clarify that. I don't personally have a problem with the entry, because I think what's unfortunate about the drawings, and might have been helpful if there was a 3D, is that you don't see that there's the two bay element that sticks out that the upper element sits on, which I think would have helped clarify what you're doing. So consequently, it doesn't look very good in the 2D, and I think it would have been better in the 3D. But I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is a 3D black and white at the top.
I don't know if I had that in my package. Okay, sorry. I didn't get any color ones either. I'm feeling gypped, but anyway, in my package. I'm only getting black and whites. Anyway, the other thing was, as I mentioned about the replan, and I'm glad it's an element that will be addressed, because I think it's just an unfortunate area on the complex. It's a very large parking lot, and even though you're adding some tree wells, that area is, sort of the leftover area that it doesn't really need to be. I know you don't want to cut too much of the visual to your building, but there is a lot of planting that could be low and could be handled in that area. So I would be inclined to, especially since replanted is going to be gone or moved hopefully, and there's more than sufficient backup, it appears, there, that a wide planter strip was added there. And not to take thunder from my chairman, but I think he's right about that hillside does need to be updated and replanted, I believe, the other section of the sloping on the street. Again, I want to commend you about the marker. I think it's a really great, a wonderful inclusion. And I think that's about it. But again, history starts when you wake up, so I remember the well there, and so it would have been nice to have it, but I understand your point. Anyway, pass on.
I'd just like to say it's a pleasing-looking project. I think it'll fit in well in the area there. But I would just like to review, and I'm not going to sit here at 5 45 and say, oh, put a planter over there. But I would like staff, if they would review your process when you look at an applicant like this, in how you assess landscaping, the minimum or suggestions, or how do you approach this?
Well, this is not a new, if it was a new site, we had guidelines and we had to go accordingly. But this is an existing site. Obviously, they don't want to lose any existing parking stall. So we have to work within the existing framework. We don't have the freedom of new parking, if you would like. So we feel that the level they're proposing is as much as possible under the circumstances without losing the stalls, the parking stalls. Obviously, if I understood correctly, Mr. Gregos is pointing out that the location of the recycling bin can be planted. That is an option, but I don't see anywhere else that a great extent of planting can be placed, as I said, without changing the layout or losing the stall.
Okay, I guess just what I'm saying is, as a board member, you look at a project like this, maybe driving home and say, oh, boy, why don't we tell them, if we put some planters on that corner there, that would have been nice. But it's a process that staff obviously undergoes as the thing comes by.
If that parking lot had been totally redone, then they would have needed to comply with the landscape requirements for a service parking lot. Because that didn't happen, they don't need to do that.
Okay. And I guess yes.
And that having been said, it's important that they not lose parking on an existing parking lot. We know that it's important probably to the applicant and to the community as well. But we typically encourage on sites like this that were developed prior to our current landscaping standards, we encourage additional landscaping wherever that can happen without impacting the parking count. And if we've overlooked some areas where additional landscaping should go, we would invite the board to point those out and add that as conditions.
That was my next question. Can it be a condition in our
Could absolutely be a condition.
If we do find a solution for where they can add additional landscape? We don't expect you to find and fine-tune solutions up there on the dais, even though we know, of course, you're very capable of doing so. If they could have, they would have. So obviously.
Well, not necessarily. If you can see on the plans some area clearly where, because you've all visited the sites today or recently, if it shows up to you areas clearly where landscaping can go and not reduce the parking count, it was obviously something staff overlooked. That's something we should be looking out for.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just conclude that by saying that I will listen with great interest to any of my colleagues who have those suggestions, and if they're not burdensome to the applicant, I would support them.
Thank you.
I applaud the architect. Great design, great improvement. I mean, I went there this afternoon. I mean, it's a great transformation. But there's little here and there issues that I would like you to consider it. I mean, especially that the concrete patio area, I think you should consider to relocate it somewhere else. I think it's tight for the 60-footers trucks backing up. Already it's bad, and it's too tight. And unless you propose a different, like a buffer protection, bollard or landscaping, screening people sitting there and make them feel more comfortable. Safety, trucks, they go and come, they make mistakes, like the mistake they had in La Cañada. Also, I wish you could look into, I don't know how definite is the approval with La Cañada, the colors. It's a Craftsman colors. I wish you had consider to introduce a third color, like the green color, make it a little bit lovelier. To bring more life into the project. A third color, maybe green, I don't know if you have researched craftsman-style homes, Greeny Green and all those guys, the gang, they have a third colors. I mean, I know it's a concrete finish, and I don't have problem. I like it, the river rocks. I think it's a little bit too dark. I mean, I think the scheme is a little bit too dark. It looks fine. The color, you have bronze, it's dark. The glass, I don't know if it's a dark glass. I don't know if you have a sample. You need to bring some kind of contrast in colors. And also regarding coming to the landscape, I guess we can't do anything about it. I'll recommend, I wish you could do some planting on that bottom portion of the property. It will enhance the property. You're spending all that energy designing this beautiful project, and then you have this corner by the entrance. It looks unfinished. It will, I mean, and I'm still not comfortable with the entrance and the pavilion area. Kind of, it's not balanced, but if you had to line up with the driveway, that's fine. If my colleagues...
No, I'm talking to her. I'm trying to get that corner for you. No, the other one. There you go.
That's about it. That's about it. Otherwise, great design. I like it, but you need to massage it a little bit.
Can I ask you to expand on the first point you made on the
Which one?
the tightness of the section of the site you were just talking about?
I'm concerned about this expansion, that the trucks, when they come in, obviously they're going to come back in and then they're going to back in there. So
Even 24. How high is the? Can I ask? How high is the building? How high is the tilt-up building? Do you have? Let me see.
You need to
It's
come
2010, 20 feet 10 the existing is.
20 feet 10.
Yes.
I think, I mean, normal tilt-up buildings today, I mean, we do, for fire department requires at least, if you have a 30-footer building, or 20, they require 30 feet driveways, and you have 24, 25, you're narrowing, you're taking, already it's tight, you're going to take another 2 feet, and you have people sitting there. I don't think it's a great idea to put people sitting there.
Would
But-
Board Member Baladian
Parking there
recommend?
now. but-
Yeah, it's fine. People are parked there. They have their 24. That's fine. That's normal. But I'm concerned about truckers, those 60, 70 footers backing up. It's not an easy task. So I wouldn't put people there.
Well,
and
let's just have your recommendation
Recommended.
of consent. Thank you.
done.
Okay. It's taken about 40 years to remodel this building. And what we end up with is an architecture that goes back another 30 years from that time. I'll be honest, I wish the new look was taking in consideration the architecture, the backbone of the building, and something new was proposed, something current, something, and elements of the era that was built was presented in a much more interesting fashion. Having said that, I think the craftsman style is one of my favorite architectural styles that are from the past. So, if any of these options of styles that I would have gone with would have been, the craftsman would have been the one that I would pick. The detailing of craftsman architecture is essential to make the design work. I think having the backbone of the columns, the beams, you somehow kind of your hands are tied with what's there. So the architect has tried his best, obviously, to work with what you have there as far as the grid lines, as far as the beams. The use of the river rocks as far as the base of these columns and the way that these columns go up and the details that carry these cantilever pieces, I think works great. I think that itself, to me, is a great craftsman detail that it's been used. But from there on, I think it's just a conventional. Nothing craftsman tells me that what we have from there on is just a pure conventional roofing, the wrapping, and so forth. So what I would have liked to see was to carry the architecture to this fullest extent and truly bring the craftsman detailing back in. Usage of the plaster and these elements here, usually in craftsman, when the facade is expressed with siding, some wood siding or some elements there, not stucco, not even the furring that is getting plastered over. So nothing in these elements there tells me it has to do with craftsman. The only thing craftsman is this. That's all I'm seeing as being truly a craftsman architecture. The rest of this stuff, the storefront system that is being used on the top, there's opportunities that is completely lost to bring that architecture, that true architecture in. Craftsman is, again, the definition of craftsman is symmetry. You have symmetry and using, the centering of the system, and I agree with staff that centering this with an element there, I think it works. But unfortunately, it works in as you drive up. But when you're looking at it as an overall building, it creates this off balance. So I think by creating this symmetry, even if this element was representing another major focal point, I would have probably added another element there to kind of carry this balance over. I would have not covered this entire top piece with plaster fascia boards. I mean, I would have removed those the fascia boards, exposed the rafters, let them be exposed sitting on these beams, and let it be exposed, and all of these details, these beautiful details that craftsman brings in, let it come out. Not just be happy with, it's taken almost 40 years to remodel this thing, and we're remodeling something that it's probably going to stay for another 40 years. And is this what we really want to have? I mean, I really like the craftsman, but let's get it to the level that I think it needs to be, and then it brings back. All of these elements there, you got this wood, you're covering it with plaster here. Why can't it be just let the post and beam system be carried through? Let that be a part of, one of the places that I was thinking of just bringing it up is the California Adventure, the Disneyland, the hotel. As you drive up, it's a true craftsman detailing, and then as you drive up, it's like a pavilion. You drive into a pavilion, and there's no plaster used there, and that's something that it's very local. You can drive up there, you can see, and how the wood and all these details are worked together. Craftsman, the definition of craftsman is a crafted, skilled people would come and carve and put these beams and work them into each other. And I think it starts doing that at this level, but from here on, you're wrapping these with plaster. Why can't we just have wood? Why does these windows have to be why can't it be just open trellis, open windows or wooden windows or cased in some post and beam headers and all these details that are truly lost. I understand these have to, because of the function of obviously it needs to maintain the function, but over here you're coming up, you're just going to see this as you walk up. You're going to see this plastered plaster box with these windows that are placed in. What part of that is the craftsman? I mean, the idea is great, But there's nothing craftsman about this thing. So I like the river rock. I like the details. Yeah, I'll let you speak. But I like the river rocks. I like these details. But I think the first thing everybody looks at is this detail, and everybody loves it. But they don't go beyond that. They don't get into the details. They don't get into all these elements that are truly lost in this developing this thing. And actually, what I'm saying is it should cost less rather than more. Whereas less exposed rafters, exposed beams, I think that would definitely be a lot more interesting. And design and have a building that it's truly going to last for another 40 years. For someone else to come and say, oh my God, look at this. This building was built in the 1950s. Oh no, it was built in the 2009. So that's what you're trying to do. You want to make this building look like that it was built in the 1940s and 50s. It was truly a craftsman style. That's when truly a lot of the good architecture came out. And now we're in the 2009 and we want to build something that will look like that it was. So if we're going to make this thing look like a craftsman, what we talked about, we talked 20 minutes about the history of this building, the site. So let's bring out that architecture. Let's bring out the era. Let's make people understand that this is from that era. This is from that time, and not something that it came out there. I guess you wanted to speak.
This is craftsman influenced. We're not trying to mimic a style. This is a commercial building. It's not a private residence. It's not Disneyland. We have maintenance issues. We're dealing with existing wood beams that have not aged well because of the lack of maintenance. So it is our intent to plaster them and make them last longer, look better longer. We've already, we're spending a considerable amount of money to provide this pavilion, space for outdoor dining, a space for the historical marker. How much more do we need to spend?
But I'm just wondering why there are newer products out there. You don't need to use wood. There's fake woods out there that do not rot, do not need any maintenance or anything. Why do you need to do this and then wrap this with plaster? Why can't we just use other elements there, redwood, other types of
There are
products?
existing structures that provide screening for the rooftop.
No, I understand. I'm okay with that. But these brown little details that you're adding these accents, and then you're covering with plaster, which looks like a Mediterranean-looking thing, accent detail that these buildings use. And so that's what I'm trying to say. These little, you're talking about maintenance. You got a foot wide plaster section, about 25 feet up, with these windows there. Wouldn't it be better to just completely wrap this with some sort of a wood or something there that would last longer, rather than these? Wouldn't these crack? Wouldn't these be more of a waterproofing issue? Wouldn't be more of other elements there? I mean, these windows here, can it be louvered? Can it be just open? Can it bring air in? Can it be those things?
We considered those things. We've done other buildings in the Foothill area. Another craftsman up on Foothill. We've looked at the Ross up on, I think that is Foothill. But they have pigeon problems. Wherever you leave openings and open wood framing,
I understand.
you get
I
pigeons.
understand. I mean, I'm not going to design this for you, but I'm just saying. I'm just
Bring in more craftsmen into it. More
Okay,
craftsmen.
let me finish my talk. Thanks. I said my piece here. The other two other items, landscaping. We have the obviously the diamond. Planter areas that doesn't encroach into the into the parking. They can plant some trees here. Obviously, Mr. Carter said that if it's cost prohibitive, then so be it. But I think after all of 40 years of waiting, I think a little bit of a landscaping wouldn't hurt. I think definitely here, I would like to see better landscaping, trees, some more lush vegetation. I'm not sure what this parking is all about. It's shown as a parking, but it's never been used as a parking. It's been used as a recycle, and I don't think anybody would park here and get up to here.
That is actually used for the recycling. People park there to use the recycling.
Right. And I'm assuming that this recycling came after, and this parking was part of the calculations of the parking for the place.
Could have been it at a very different level.
Yeah. So anyways, I think landscaping in the front is essential. The other problem that I've used this shopping center many times, and one of the main problems that I've had is the grade here, the grade change from the driveway as you exit out. So I would suggest some solution there. I've heard a lot of complaints. People knew that I was going to be hearing this, and they came to me. There's a steep slope that connects the driveway into the street, and a lot of cars hit their front end, and it's just a pretty bad situation there. So I think seeing this, I think it's a good opportunity for that to be fixed. Other than that, I think again, as I said, if we're going to do craftsmen, if we're bringing up history, and if we're going to be going to that extent of putting plaques in and celebrating the history of the site, I think then we really have to be true to its architecture and not just do something halfway.
Well, let me just ask my fellow board members, excluding my chairman. My chairman, who is a great spokesman for more modern designs and has executed many very nice projects, here has embraced craftsmen with a vengeance, to your chagrin, I'm sure. So I'm just asking my other board members how, in a practical way, how do we support that if that's something we would want to do?
I think it's a difficult hurdle to set. I'm relieved by your passion for it. I think that's wonderful. I think if we set the bar too high, people won't ever try for the bar. If there are elements in this that truly, I think, could be addressed, I think we should address it. Wholesale redone with a true wood structure, I do think is not realistic for this kind of commercial building with that kind of southern facing. I think you'll get beams and wood elements that have weathered like those existing ones have weathered. So I question it in this case whether you would go to that extent. I mean, obviously, I would love it if that was the case, but I think I would be hard pressed to push it to that level.
I think plaster, we waited 40 years to get plastered.
Well, I can see if we could address areas where.
No, I think it's just everything above the fascia, I think, needs work. I think it needs the same amount of effort and detail that has been placed below the fascia should be placed above the fascia. And if the argument is that the maintenance is a problem, then why do they have post columns and support and beams? I mean, it's there. Just because you can put a ladder and get to it and stand it, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And
I sort of have a little bit of an issue with the fact that it's all those lower elements are plaster, which is unfortunate. But I mean, so the fact that you like the lower one, it's funny because I have trouble with the lower ones, not so much with the upper.
I agree with Alan. I mean, maybe we should come in between. I mean, maybe you should introduce maybe a few more elements, sidings, colors, to be a little bit closer to craftsman. Right now, I mean, I totally agree with Alan, but I don't know if we could press you to go all the way 100% craftsman. That wouldn't be fair. But maybe you should introduce halfway sidings, colors, additional colors, a little bit more exposing the...
I have to correct myself. I meant the detailing below the fascia, not the finishes of the fascia. That's what I was trying
Well, that's
to
important. This goes to my point. I think
the
if you want to...
detailing, the extent of the detailing, the elements that are supporting it, the way that it's sitting, it has to be wood, but they're covering it with plaster just for the maintenance. And Is it or is it not? I mean, if it's not, then let's just go with something new, something current, something now.
I can understand that.
And that's what I'm trying to say. And if it's something that we're going to try to mimic something that is done 60 years ago, and we want to try to bring the true essence of 1971 back into this building, and we're just doing something, just because, we just use the Craftsman name, and we're trying to put a history.
Well, I think the problem I have in respect to an applicant, because this process is foreshortened, and we essentially, if it went back for review, there'd be one more time. If it was going back for review, I'm not necessarily proposing that. But I think you really need to be clear about what the element is, that it is a material issue and where those, I think you need to do that, not design it.
No, I think I was clear. I think I like to see wood. I like the detail that it was done below the fascia, and I don't like any of the details above the fascia. I'm very
Yeah,
clear.
but below is plaster, though.
Well, I'm saying I like the detailing
Detailing, but
below
not the material.
Not the material. I like the material because they're going to use wood to do that. But I don't like them to cover it with plaster and make it look like a fake.
Yeah, but he's talking about a built-up section, though, which is just number 2x4s. This isn't lovely wood. This could be construction-grade lumber that's plastered, so... And that's fine if that's what you're thinking of, but I think we need to be very specific.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows, supporting this building, knows what they're going to be getting. And I'm not sure if the Historic Society that they're supporting it truly know the details and the materials and the quality of the everything is being used. It looks great, but everything is concrete plaster.
I can understand.
How can you plaster? I mean,
I can completely understand. That was the issue I had with the lower section that was plastered, but...
Yeah. But if you guys like what you see, I mean, it's your motion, but that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking is, I appreciate everyone coming and supporting this project, and I appreciate the comments that we've received, and I appreciate the owner trying to upgrade this building. But to upgrade this building, I think truly needs to get upgraded, not something that it's proposed that I don't like full finish. That's what I...
Well, in reality, I would not be supportive of actually natural wood for some of those elements, like the vertical element. As much as I would like to see it, I don't think it's realistic.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of the maintenance on it.
Okay.
Although I'm not saying that for all projects, but I think in terms of this one, I think it might be unrealistic.
Okay.
But I'm not sure of that. I mean, if there are elements you would want to do, I mean, I would be open to addressing them and trying to explain it. I at least support the elements that are supportive.
Yeah, I think as an overall general comment, I'm supportive of the upgrade. I am supportive of the pavilion and pretty much that's it.
Here, I wonder if I could do this, because we got to get a process going.
Yes.
I would move to send it back for redesign with conditions, and on my own motion, then I'd like to elucidate the conditions, and then if I felt that those were substantial conditions, I would vote for my own motion, but I may not vote for my own motion. So I would move that this project be sent back for redesign with conditions. Is there a second?
I second.
A second.
Okay, so let's see what those conditions would be.
I'll go against what I just said. I mean, as I'm thinking about the Ross that's in La Cañada up the street is a wood structure. It's probably been there 10 or 15 years. So I mean, there is ways of doing that wood element. So I take that back partially. And actually, as I'm thinking about it, there's the one at the California and the freeway in Pasadena, orange wood, that has a lot of wood elements associated with it. So I'll sort of pull back a little bit. But I do think it's an issue, because it is a little bit unrealistic to try to think that the wood elements are going to be up to a level that you're going to like with a reasonable amount of maintenance.
Just as a general comment, we need to look at the project for its design. whatever we feel that the design is appropriate and the design is done well. If we are going to be proposing something that we're concerned about how it's going to get maintained or what the maintenance is going to be, and that's up to the applicant and if they would like to make those decisions. But I don't think we should be making the decision of, if we think that the wood structure is the appropriate design for this, and we hold ourselves back of proposing that just because we're concerned that they're not going to be able to maintain it for another 20 years, 30 years, or whatever it is. The lumber there has been there for less than 40 years. So the wood beam that they have, it hasn't been covered with plaster. It's a wood, and so what I'm trying to say is there has been, as you said, there has been projects out there, and it's just, I think we should be concerned about the quality and the design of that. Whereas, if that's true, then everything needs to get wrapped with plaster. And
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
we embraced a craftsman style, and now it's incumbent upon us to say where we could see a little more of that. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and I think it's, I would just put out as examples. I would show an example of Ross, which is up the street, and I would put out the example, I think it's called Orange Wood. It's the end of the 210 where it comes into California and Pasadena on the northeast corner. So that complex also has some exposed wood elements, less of a craftsman style, but it's again how you would do a wood element with a semi-transparent stain. So I'll give that as examples of how you could integrate wood elements into it. What you might think about doing, again, these are just comments I would have, is that if you looked at orange wood, I think there was a lot of interest in that style. I'm just saying in generally, where you don't have to be as literal on the craftsman style, but there still is interest in material that might be a nice melding of the two. If you're not trying to do, if we set the bar too high, either way, I think if you're going to do the craftsman, I think you're going to go to it. But I think you might be able to pull it back slightly and do more wood elements that might ultimately be more natural looking and be successful. So maybe pull back the style a little bit so that you could do more natural materials. So.
And if you don't mind, I would like to ask a conceptual landscape plan be brought in as part of the return for redesign for the areas that we spoke about.
Yeah, and actually,
Yes, I would amend my motion to include that.
Actually, I want to specify that it's, I think all the planted areas need to be addressed with new landscaping. There's a large landscape strip that's on the west side that the property line needs to be addressed. There's actually a hill that the berm by the lower parking lot that needs to be addressed.
Actually, there's this here too.
I don't know what decide what they do. Yeah, but I'm saying
spray green.
Yeah, but the bottom left corner, there should be a planter that's added, and then there's a berm that's right above that needs to be addressed also. But definitely the western planting also, but all the existing planting areas.
Yeah, I just don't see how they could plant above there and then not plant on the. Got landscaping coming down all the way down to here. Oop.
It's a different slope.
Yeah.
Can I just ask staff, we've made some indications. Are we anywhere near the specificity on bringing out details of craftsman style that would be necessary for resubmittal?
No?
Well, I think, but the element that I was asking about, and tell me if this is enough, is either if you're going to push the style to that extreme, then you sort of have the responsibility to bring more of the elements out. Or if you pulled back the style slightly.
What does that mean, pull
natural
back
material.
the style?
Try not to be as literal to a craftsman style,
It's totally.
but pull it back slightly. And again, I'm only using that one complex because it's the only one that's coming to mind.
Yeah, then that becomes sort of, are you thinking, I'm just trying to understand as we work with the applicant, are you thinking that it would be a modern interpretation of the craftsman style?
Modern interpretation of the craftsman style.
Okay, because that's typically something that we don't encourage.
We don't encourage that. Okay.
Well, we haven't
didn't know.
heard that from the board in the past, so I just wanted to clarify.
Well, this board member completely disagrees with that.
What? Which one was it?
I think that's what we're trying to do is make modern interpretations of old styles.
There are areas here, you got a beam going there. There's a great opportunity that you can go ahead and use some other elements there that expose these rafters, and rather than covering this whole thing, creating this plaster box area, you can even go ahead and go to an extent, depending on if they're willing to do that, go ahead and carry this thing and make this an open, have a post and beam detail there, and rather than window this thing that is going to be a cleaning maintenance in the future,
Or pigeons.
or pigeons, go ahead and make this an open kind of an lattice work area there. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can make this thing work, rather than creating, you come in, you see this, but then the rest of the stuff is just plastered box. And,
Okay, we've taken down a lot of notes.
Okay, is that
So if it's okay, let us repeat back to you some of what we've heard.
Okay.
So you can, rather than having to ask you to repeat everything you've said, and we can get some agreement.
Okay, shall I go? Okay, I'm going to go over the comment I've got. Consider introducing true elements and details of craftsman to provide a more authentic craftsman style. Is that? And then Mr. Boladian mentioned such as sidings and colors.
Also, another thing, it's basically celebrating the structure more, expose it a little bit more, like Alan was saying. For instance, let's have for just a minute, like maybe a reflected ceiling plan of this whole corridor, seeing, maybe exposing the structural members every so often to break that. I don't know how you're designing that ceiling, introducing, exposing the members, celebrating the structure and craftsman.
Okay.
If I may, excuse me. It seemed to me the discussion had an or to that, or do a modern interpretation of a craftsman.
Yeah.
And I heard one board member speak of that, and we didn't really get
I would like to
feedback from the
include that
others.
if you guys would be open to it.
Repeat
More
that.
of either pulling back slightly from the style or doing more of a modern interpretation of the craftsman style.
It's either modern or you're going to go craftsman. If you're going to do craftsman, let it be craftsman. That's what I want to see.
Either you do a proper modern or proper craftsman.
Well, you can't.
What you're saying is you want to either make it more true to craftsman,
Yes.
or make it less thematic.
That perfect. I wish I had said that.
True to craftsman.
Okay, so what we're hearing from some of the board members is that either it's craftsman and it comes back and better reflects the craftsman style, or the style changes. Is that what we're hearing from some board members? And what we're hearing from board member Gallegos is that if it's a modern interpretation or a different interpretation of the craftsman style, that wouldn't necessarily require that level of detail, exposed beams, and we'll read some of those back to you. Board member Gallegos is okay with that, so I'm not hearing necessarily agreement on this point. So if we want to give the applicant some clarity.
Michael, if I could just have a little clarification. The only danger I see is I'm supportive of true craftsman elements, but in chasing after that, these might be faux craftsman things to appease this board. Are you saying that with a more modern interpretation, you could have some quality embellishments?
The idea is that if you weren't as fussy with all the small detailing of craftsman, which I love and would encourage, if you backed off that slightly you might have the opportunity to use natural materials more, and it would be a more honest structure, which I think is what your intent. So that was my point. If you pulled back from the detailing of it, you could then possibly have more natural material, and it could look more honest in that way.
Well, the only words I'll hear from your statement is the natural materials. That's
fine with me.
That's
Not that the other is not honest. They are both honest. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. But so I think we could, Alan, do you think we could accommodate both? Because I do side with if you're going to go craftsman, make sure the elements.
And I completely agree with that.
Okay.
But
I will support your interpretation.
I'm giving them another option.
Yes.
The way to take
Okay.
it. That's all. But if you don't want to take the other option, that's fine. But
So the way we might interpret that option as we move forward and work with the applicant is that perhaps the intricacy of the details where the columns meet the roof are simplified, and whatever investment might be made goes into more natural materials. Would that be an example?
Right.
And so there's maybe some. I see board member.
The only thing that was going for me was those columns, and
Okay.
you just put your finger right on that.
Okay,
it's like-
so we're maybe not going to resolve that issue now.
Yeah, let 'em come back.
Ms. Giazan, do you have some other items that you
Yes,
wanted to reflect to the board?
Sure. The backup area for the loading required reconsideration since this seems too tight to function properly. Correct the slope of the driveway to the parking.
Those are consideration. I mean, I've
Considerations.
gotten many calls from different neighbors
Oh, okay.
asking.
It
to
seems
bring
it's just a
up.
function of the drainage on the parking lot that they probably had to do that in order to catch whatever the runoff was. So if there's another way of dealing with that issue without it happening, it looks like it's all going into one catch basin. So there's kind of another way of dealing with that would be helpful.
And I guess this is the last comment was provide conceptual landscape plans.
Or you can cross out conceptual landscape plan.
Okay, if I may add to that, perhaps the landscape requirement could read, landscape plan should be included for next review, or if you decide otherwise. All planters and other landscaped areas must be addressed, including area at the south, the street frontage, at the west as well, within the parking lot wherever possible, and at the hill behind the building at the north of the site.
Wherever possible.
And wherever possible. Does that sound
It
right?
might help to clarify is that we're asking them to add planter on the southwest corner. We're actually adding planter at that.
And provide an additional planter at the southwest corner.
Along the sidewalk.
Okay. So that's the landscaping condition that we'll add. We heard as we were having this conversation, expose the structural members on the underside of the, we'll refer to it as a colonnade, and to provide a reflected ceiling plan. Is that something you'd like to include in the conditions or considerations? Okay, I'm seeing some nods. Natural materials must be used, and I haven't heard any objection to the use of the cultured Coronado stone. I just wanted to call your attention to that. That's what is being proposed, and there's agreement to that. So that's fine. And then we heard a lot of discussion as you were talking about additional use of siding that could be cement board siding rather than plaster. And we heard that for above the fascia, and we didn't hear that everywhere that stucco is used. Is that correct?
Yeah, looks familiar.
I mean, it's pretty much everywhere there is stuccoing that.
Everywhere there is stucco, you might like to see...
No, they can
They could use stucco in some places, but they should also consider, especially above the roof at the parapet, at the two-story pavilion piece, they should consider the use of siding in addition to, instead of stucco in some places, shingles. There was also a consideration that at that pavilion, rather than glass, there be a lattice, a consideration of an open lattice work.
And there's many different ways of doing this.
Solutions that would address
Create
the
some-
bird issue, but also maintain a level of detail and natural material.
They can go ahead
Does
and
that
put
sound-
some, yeah,
does that sound right?
that's perfect. They can go ahead and put some post and beam details there, support, and maybe hang a nice chandelier or something there, or some elements there that it kind of becomes a focal point. People will sit there and light up at night.
And then
The siding shouldn't be limited to the parapets. I mean, they could introduce it on the full height wall. I mean, I think they should investigate some craftsman books. I mean, bring it in different styles and craftsmen.
Okay, that we can also
That's not
include in the
parapets.
that will include in the comments, and we'll also share that with the applicant. On the outdoor dining area on the eastern portion of the site, I think that's the east. No, the western portion. Sorry. Are we hearing you'd like to see that eliminated or protected?
It's a requirement. I would like to see it eliminated and relocated somewhere a little bit safer.
Okay, now our understanding is that there is, in fact, being proposed outdoor dining under the pavilion near the entry. Is that sufficient, or you would like to see this additional west piece?
This is dining for the restaurant there. I don't know what the business is there, and the safety comments I take very seriously, but I wouldn't envision that the concrete tables under the pavilion there would have any relation to that dining. They're trying to provide some chairs and tables.
Who would want to sit on that corner? Nobody. I mean, have you seen the elevation?
Well, the restaurant's on that side. All I would say on that, maybe this will address part of your thing. I was thinking that there should be a landscape element maybe on the northern and the southern side of that outdoor eating area that could be used as protection for it. And I think it would be nice to add a landscape element since they're using that side of the building to add that.
Okay, so
I think beside the point, it's too tight, in my opinion.
Okay, so we could say either eliminate that outdoor dining area or provide a landscape buffer and/or bollards
And check with the...
On the north and south side of it.
on the north and south
Let them
side.
check with the fire department or the building department if that makes sense, that
Okay, we'll have them check before that comes back to you.
the fire department too.
There was a comment early on in the discussion about the parapets being vertical, and we weren't quite
I just
clear on
wanted,
what that
they're
meant.
proposing it as vertical, which I think is great and nice and should be.
Okay.
Right now, they're on a slope.
I see.
I want
So,
to make sure that it was understood. that it is-
we'll make that a condition just so that it's clear.
Just to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They mentioned furring, and I just want to make sure there wasn't the trim piece they were talking about. That was all. But they were doing it, which was nice, very nice.
Okay. Do you think we've got it all? Great. Thanks very
I
much.
think they've had enough.
I think, and just before we call for the vote, I'd just like to say that this project it came in close to probably a 4-0 approval, but we embraced the craftsman style, and if you're going to put a plaque up and celebrate this spot, then I don't think it's unreasonable to ask to go a little further with the craftsman elements. So that'll be reflected in my vote.
And off the record, keep the well.
So this was a motion for return for redesign with all those comments.
And it's been seconded.
So Mr. Carter motioned the return for redesign. Mr. Bouladian seconded. This is the roll call. Board Member Bouladian?
Redesign, yes.
Board Member Carter,
Yes.
Board Member Gregus,
Yes.
Chairman Malikian.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Are we ready for the next one?
All whiskey.
700 Glenmore?
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Design Review Board. The next case item before you is case number 2-PDR-2009-029-A, located at 700 Glenmore. This is a first-time submittal for final review. The project summary is as follows. The project is proposing to add an 805-square-foot first-floor addition and a new 715-square-foot second floor, and to change the architectural style of the existing residence. The total proposed habitable floor area will be 2,080 square feet. The existing property contains a 560-square-foot single-family residence with an attached two-car garage built in 1947. The lot size is 6,933 square feet. This project is exempt from CEQA, and this project is also located in the R1R Hillside Zone. If I may mention, the board members' packets reflected slight discrepancies within the roof plan. The applicant has then provided clarification here, but I also have the previous plans with the colored elevations. The material board has been provided with further detail of the actual color, but changes to the new plan regard this roof ridge, changes in height to the railing, and as well as elimination of the line right here. On to staff comments regarding mass and scale. The overall location of the addition appears to be appropriate to the project site and the neighborhood contents. The essential site plan remains unchanged. Staff would recommend a landscape plan to be provided and to complement the new construction, and to remove excess hardscape within the front driveway. While the neighborhood contains predominantly one-story homes, the proposed second-story addition is set back from the front of the house, thus reducing the appearance of a large project. Overall, the mass and scale of the proposed project is compatible with the neighborhood. Staff recommends approval of this project with two conditions. The first condition being that the applicant provide a landscape plan to eliminate the hardscape here in this location right towards the front, and the second condition, as always, is to have the applicant provide a high-quality recess window and also provide a detail to show the recess for staff's approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has at this point. Yes, sir.
Is this gotten a variance?
No variance was needed for this particular project.
1 foot setback, you don't need it?
1.3 in setback. That is an existing non-conforming condition along that wall. If the applicant was to do an addition along that side, that would be set back to the required.
But even though the height increased from the threshold of the 20 to 30,
It actually maintained a 20 to 30 threshold.
it maintained.
And maintained it. If it was to breach a height of 30 feet, then the variance.
How about the 50%?
The applicant can address that.
Almost brand new house.
The applicant can address whether if 50% of the exterior walls would be removed. My observation, it does not appear that way, but clarification can be given by the applicant whether that's.
Did the fire department look over this plans?
I do not know. I can ask the applicant if the fire department has commented. I know that planning has planning
Because
has.
when I went there, it doesn't show here the neighbor's house. It's like, right here. It's like less than, I don't know, I'm not sure. It's like less than 6 feet, plus or minus. And then when you look in elevation, the parapet, this is the house, the neighbor,
Right here, you have almost like less than 3 feet, maybe plus or minus, and it's pretty tight. I don't know how the fire department, I mean,
Good comment. I can also bring up the aerial photos for the other board members too.
that was, I don't know if you saw it.
Could I just ask you about what I'm looking at? Are those, would characterize those, are those called the balconies that we're looking, what are those, the
Yes.
pillars in the front and the,
This perch, this right here? Or-
is this characterized as a balcony? Is this the balcony? What's it
This
called?
is characterized as a balcony. This is a colonnade.
Colonnade.
Yes.
And what are the, what is the square footage of this? Is it the 100 square feet that I see?
Plus or minus, I can do that. The applicant calls out 100 square feet to be the balcony size. It'll just be slightly bigger.
And what would be the measurement between the back of this pillar and the wall?
I can find that out for you. I can scale that in a moment.
So the roof, the existing roof, they're gonna slice it out and then redo the existing roof too,
That's
right?
correct, yes.
So it's not, they're not keeping it.
They're not keeping the existing roof. The existing roof has
So
a
what's left?
minimal pitch.
So they're demoing the first floor interior walls,
Interior walls, which they can, yes.
and the existing portion is what, 700 square feet?
No, the existing house is approximately 560.
5, and they're, the total gonna be 2,000 something, right?
2,080.
3 times, 2,000,
2,080 square feet.
so almost
At
times.
the 30% threshold where they're allowed to.
There is permit history on this
Yes, yes, sir.
for the second floor?
Yes, for the second.
Because the windows, it looks like the second floor window is changing, though. I can't imagine they'd let you put a new window with a 1-foot setback. You might be able to save the old one, but I can't imagine it being a new one.
And then
Magic grip.
that fireplace is going out, the existing, they're demoing it. That goes down.
That's correct. That's correct. That's shown here on the
Goes
aerial
out,
shot.
the fireplace goes out, the interior walls goes out, nothing's left, technically.
It is, yes. It's my understanding that, yes, that...
How old
that-
is this house?
This
year
was built in 1947.
That's probably wooded, okay.
Oh, that's a very good point. Wood is okay. I have a material board and pictures for you.
Is it Carl Garabedian?
Hello everybody, I'm Carl Garabedian. I'm the designer for the project. My address is 18075 Ventura Boulevard, Encino. I'm with KSG Design Group. We've worked with staff and the planner and the urban designer regarding the front facade design and the entire house itself. Initially we had a higher porch, which was a 2-story high. We worked with that to bring it down to 1 story, and we added the element of the colonnade, which carries the balcony on top. That gave the building an appearance that it's slightly set back from the street and not as massive as initially was. We've worked with the sizes of the windows. We've made them smaller on the front facade and the side facade to be more proportional to the size of the house. Now, given the situation that the existing house has a very small square footage and it's situated only on the second floor. The entire first floor is a garage, 2-car garage, and the entrance to the existing house is from the back from the back side, from a second floor. You have to climb the wood steps going to the house from the back. There is no front door whatsoever on the existing house. You can turn to page A102, which has the existing situation, and it also is the demolition plan. As you can see, the exterior walls will remain almost to 90%. That's right, we are demolishing the existing brick fireplace, which will not work with the new proposal. It will fall into the middle of the house. Therefore, we're removing that, and we will be replacing with the new fireplace on the north side. The existing first floor will remain. The second floor will get the interior walls demolished to accommodate for the new bedrooms that will go upstairs. The new addition will create 2 additional bedrooms on the second floor, and it will create a kitchen, living room, and a dining room on the first floor, and of course the small entry into the house. This way we will have a formal entry. We will have a formal front porch facing the street, which will be more inviting to visitors of the house and the occupants. Given the limit on the size of the 30% FAR, we feel that this house is still small, considering the size of a family they have. They have children, and they have a large family that will be living in this house. But given the size of the limitation, we will basically work with this. The roof plan, we are actually matching the existing style of the roof, the slopes of the roof, which is a hip roof. The new addition will get the same treatment with the hip roof, and we will have a small cricket in between these two structures to deal with the runoff. The first floor will be the height of the first floor will be the height of the garage, which is about 9 feet roughly. The second floor existing is 8 feet, and we will have a 10-foot ceiling on the second floor to compensate for the given amount of square footage that is already limited to the entire house. I've discussed the front porch, and I can mention that again. It's a one-story porch that will be the focal point, and the colonnade will start to the left of that, which will have a balcony on top. In my opinion, that will bring the unity to the house from the exterior, and it will work well. We are providing a new balcony on the existing second floor, facing the street over the garage. We are replacing the garage door. We are replacing the existing window with the sliding door, and having 2 windows next to it. That will be our master bedroom.
Okay.
This is a question. There are 2 large existing trees there. Those stay? Is that?
Yes, the two trees will stay. We actually have a tree report done. We were required to prepare the tree report, which suggested that we can keep the trees.
Thank you.
Do you have a material board?
Yes.
How about the windows and the doors?
The windows.
The garage doors.
The windows we chose were Anderson brand.
Do you have? Okay.
I don't have a sample.
How about the garage door?
The garage door will have a wood paneling. If you can see.
Do you have a picture of the brand?
Is it wood or painted aluminum?
Yes, that's a typo. We actually ended up deciding on having
Wood door?
wood panels, plywood panels, cleaned.
How about the entrance door, the decorative metal door?
Decorative metal door, it will be a custom-made door with glass inlayment.
You don't have pictures. And then how about the railings on the balconies? Is that the design?
Yes, it will be a very minimal design for the railings.
And what is the window surround? That's a stucco surround? The
Yes,
window
the
surround?
the stucco will be the covering for the house. We have
No, around the windows.
around the windows.
Around the window.
Well, the windows will be, as mentioned, will be recessed windows. That was suggested by the staff to have this recessed.
What's the trim though around the window? What is that?
Well, that's not a trim. That's actually showing the recessed.
No, you have it as a contrasting color around the window.
That should actually mean that it's recessed.
So is it a painted window that it's recessed?
Smoke.
Okay.
Let me ask you, these samples you have, those are paint samples, no?
Which samples you mean?
On your material board, these. These are paint samples, aren't they? It looks like pencil.
Yes, this will
you
be
need to-
painted aluminum for the
You need
roof.
to speak back because they need to hear you. Yeah.
If these are paint samples, I don't know if Anderson, I've never seen that the paint from Don Edward paint samples, you have windows, I mean, they're limited. I don't think this is the actual, I don't know, the balcony rail, that's fine, but the windows, I think they have their own colors. I don't know. I think that's what it is.
If you want us to bring physical.
You should have brought it all the windows, the railing, the garage door, the entrance door, pictures and spec at least. That way we could see it.
It's a 2x4 stud wall that you're talking about, or you're doing a thicker stud wall?
Well, it will be a 2x6 wall in the recessed case.
A 2x6, so you'll be able to do that inside.
Can I ask for a clarification on the recessed windows? Are you proposing a Z-frame type window that you'll install in the recess? Is that why there's that extra ledge around the recess?
Nail-on.
Well, nail-on or Z-frame. Is that why there's that extra ledge?
Well, that ledge is actually the darker outline is the recessed part.
Right, because typically in a recessed window, you don't need an additional material to be an additional piece on the inside of the opening unless you're doing a nail-on window. With a block frame window, you wouldn't be needing that, so that's the
We
question.
won't have a nail-down window because there will be brand new windows.
Okay, so it'll be a block frame window. Okay, so we can include that in the condition if the board would like to see that. Thank you for the clarification.
Maybe a
Elaborate
window
on it.
detail will help us. A window detail probably will help too. I mean, I wish you had a detail.
Did you review the issues of the opening with fire at all, with the fire department? Because it looks like you're putting new windows. You might be able to grandfather the existing, but
Well, we are not putting in new windows.
you have them in new locations, that's why. The bathroom upstairs is a new location. And,
Right, we are actually closing the window in the existing bedroom, facing the south side.
right, but
And,
then you're proposing one in the bathroom, though.
Right, the bathroom window that can actually, if objected by the fire department, can close it up and put a
Will be
mechanical fence.
impacted by it.
Have you talked to the fire department regarding the roof, the walls from the next neighbor? Like I was asking Gabrielle, have you had to talk to the fire department, building department regarding
Not
that?
specifically about the roof. It was submitted to the fire department in a form of, when we submitted for the variance. We submitted for a variance on this project roughly around a year ago. Came to a conclusion that we don't need a variance. We went through the variance process with the zoning administrator, and the city came up with the decision that we don't actually need a variance. So we abandoned that process and we moved on to the design review process. At the variance process, the fire department actually was part of a chain of department that got the package, and they did not have anything.
What's rating? As a rating window? Can you have windows
Yeah,
closed?
what it is if you're within a certain distance, they'll ask you to have a tempered glass,
Tempered glass.
to give you that. But if you're within 0 to 3 feet, you're not going to be able
You don't
to.
get any.
I don't know if you're allowed even window.
So what we can do is, if we do go ahead and approve it, we can put it as a condition that if he does end up removing it, he doesn't need to come back for that. It's acceptable. So.
Bathroom window, and
We're just going to do
the
a
option
favor.
we can
Okay.
have is a
Well, I think
mechanical panel.
if you guys don't have any more questions for him, I want to close
What's-
the set. Just
I do just have one last question.
Yeah.
What is the actual eave detail on the roof? Is that, you're saying fascia, is it actually stuccoed all the way up with an
It will
integral?
be stuccoed all the way to the,
With an integral gutter?
yes, integral.
What
I think it's
style?
going out on the elevations.
What style are you trying to Mediterranean?
Yes, that will be correct.
thank you.
Thank you.
Public session is closed. Scaragos?
A couple of things. I think when you do a second floor, especially when there's not one there now and there's not one next door, and it's going to be exposed, I think you have to be conscious about how it looks three-dimensionally. And I think just because you have a existing condition that's a smooth face on one side doesn't mean you have to do it on the other side. So I have a real problem massing of it, that it's just plopped there and with very little articulation. I think they're trying to do things on the front, which I think are positive, but I think that one side facade is just too unarticulated for me. The other thing is just more of just a preliminary thing. I don't, it's hard to respond to an elevation that's not really drawn, I mean, realistically. I mean, the window is not, that is not how you draw the window. So it's hard to respond to how that would happen. I mean, you would draw windows more properly than that. And I don't think that's, I don't know that detail is going to be as successful to recessing the way that's proposed. I would almost maybe do it slightly larger or something. I think if it's, I'm just not sure about that detail. But the pipe railing, I think, is a problem. I don't know that really goes with whatever style it's trying to do. But I think fundamentally, I think I just have an issue with the massing on that side elevation.
Well, Mike, if I may take advantage of your expertise, can you walk me through the front, the porch and the balcony? I mean, is that an actual usable porch? Those columns are 3 feet from the wall. I mean, there's a little space in the middle. I guess you could put a chair.
I mean, it's more of an architectural.
It's an architectural detail.
Sort of an architectural element. I think.
Is that a good use of square footage, or?
Well, I think what might be positive about it, which I hope they could look at again, is that if you were going to generate a balcony above, I think by making it a nice, you see, when you look at the perfect examples, look at above the garage door. There's just sort of a pop out as minimal as you could do for that balcony. And, wouldn't it be unfortunate if there was just another one there? So they have done something by doing a large architectural element below, which I think makes the balcony more possible for that reason. But
I look at, if I'm looking at it, it's a 20-foot setbacks, 20 feet from the street. Is there?
It's not a usable porch.
It's not a usable.
It's not
Okay.
a usable porch. And like I was saying, I think there could be some positive if it was embellished, because I think it gives a nicer support for the balcony if you were going to have a balcony, than the one over the garage. I think the one over the garage is a problem.
Okay.
And he's calling out a cricket between the two roofs, but he's actually showing a full ridge between the two. I just think it looks, it just looked like it is too unarticulated, not enough going on. I mean, I've said before, you can have a strong mass building in this style, but it needs to have an interest to it. So I would be looking to more articulation. I think there's area in back They're already not stacking the rear wall anyway, so there could be movement to the back, which would let them have articulation on the side, on the second floor. So that's enough for now. You guys can see what you come up with.
Am I next?
Yes.
Well, beside the lack of information from like finishes, I wish we had more information about the finishes. Coming to the structure, I mean, mainly the area is like one-story homes. The roof design, I have problem with the roof design. And then I wish you could revisit the roof design to simplify it, make it, instead of looking as a two homes, maybe simplify it. And then the details, I wish you had some details, the parapet details, like for instance here you see there's a difference. I mean, there's no symmetry in design. They're going to have problems. Roof design, and then we talked about the side, how it works. I wish, I mean, you could consider like look at the other styles in the neighborhood, maybe. I don't know. It's a shame, like Alan went with vengeance about the Craftsman style. I mean, you almost take the roof out. The walls are gone. It's only 500 square feet. I don't know if the wood is okay. I wish you had investigated if you could do, go farther. I mean, all you're going to be left out. The windows are gone. Everything is gone. I mean, what's left? The framing. I mean, I would recommend you to look in if you could push away from the property line, have a different style, maybe, I don't know, more suitable with the area, walk, maybe modern ranch or something that works with the area. I have problem with the railings, pipe. I'm sure I've seen these doors, the decorative doors I know which they are, even though you don't have it. I could tell which one they're going to be. The garage door, I have no clue. The windows, would like to see it. The size of the windows, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's not constant. The position of the windows, the symmetry on the sides, the organization, giving some kind of symmetry of the architecture. I think the columns are a little bit too massive. I mean, I think it's for the area and the size of the structure. I think it's pretty massive piece of block. Mm-hmm. It needs to be kind of breaking up. The roof is not working for me. I think you're going to have problems. I don't think so even it's drawn properly. If you look the roof plan and the elevations, I don't think so it matches.
He just has a cricket there on the roof plan, just right
I don't know how it's going to work up.
We can't have a crosstalk, sir. We can't have a crosstalk. I'll open it.
Yeah,
I'll open.
You don't have to open the hearing in order to hear from the applicant.
Yeah, you're right. Do you want to ask him these questions?
No, it's a general comments.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to ask. He could come later. We could ask him, but that's about it. I mean, I think it needs a lot of work on it. I'm not comfortable with it.
I have a question for you. If you can come up for a second. And I'm trying to understand this. I wasn't able to go to the back of the building. There's an existing deck, correct? And it's accessible from the second floor, correct?
It's actually accessible from the only staircase we have that actually leads to the entrance of the house.
Okay. So under it, is it open or is it filled?
It's open.
It's open.
It has a slope underneath. The
So-
slope comes to the toe of the
So
garage.
it's a concrete deck.
It's a wood deck.
It's a wood deck.
And underneath it's a sloping ground. It slopes all the way to the toe of to the slab of the garage.
Okay. And so your section, you're showing that you're extending the same deck, similar typical detail,
Right.
and then the dirt is coming over, and you have the steps. So basically, the back of the building where the shaded area is like this, it's pretty much vacant. It's open.
There's a site survey plan attached to the set on the last page, I think. The slope actually comes forward on the new portion of the house, so we are actually supporting some dirt there. That's one of the reasons we are trying to keep the existing house, because it really will be cost prohibitive to do anything to push it back. The retaining wall gets there about 6 or 7 feet already.
Okay, thank you. You can have a seat. Thank you. All right. I think it's a simple design, so I don't have as much problems with this as I would normally have. I think it's simple enough. I think there's a lot of inconsistencies in the actual proposal, so I'm not sure how we can go ahead and approve this. Maybe it's a continuation to clarify these items. I don't know. Maybe I want to put this on the table. Couple of things. On your material board, you're saying you're going to be using Eagle Roofing roof tile. On your elevation, you're showing Spanish tile roof. Windows, you're saying it's painted aluminum, but you said it's Anderson wood windows. Okay. Well, you're specifying the base of the entire facade or the building as stone veneer travertine, which I don't see anywhere in your material boards of what that is. That is. So I think I don't have a problem with it, but I just truly want to see what this building is really going to look like with all these materials together, all these details coming together. It's being specified that the fascia board with integrated gutter, if that's the detail that we want to go with, and if that's what is being proposed, let's make sure that it works. The gutters, the downspouts, everything that works together. I'm not really sure if your roof plan, I wasn't really clear about the roof plan, which one we're going with, so I think it's a good opportunity for him to fix that and give us the final look. As far as what the elevation is versus what the packet that we got versus what it's been modified to, in some weird way I like the packet one better, being that it's tying the whole thing together. Has this little California frame. It's shown on the elevation as a California frame, whereas it's not as a cricket. So, and I would highly recommend, being that it's a very modest, simple design, I think the railing, it becomes a big, essential part of the design approval, and I think the railing needs to be lightened up, very light, and something simpler. And simple wrought iron or something that it just doesn't become this overwhelming element there. If it's wood, the coloring, the presentation, it's completely lacking my support. So I think just the presentation, because ultimately this is what we're approving, and if staff is going to follow this to go out there after it's done, they're going to have a hell of a time looking what's built and what's being approved and what they're going to end up with. So I think if we do have wood windows, if we have wrought iron, if we have metal front door or decorative iron glass door, let it truly show as that. If it's Anderson recessed, let it be that. As Mr. Garrigo said, it's really difficult for us to approve something that it's not really going to look like that. So I think it
looks like a frameless.
It's just like a frameless kind of a door, and it truly looks like a fascia board around or some sort of a decorative element rather than the recessed.
Yeah.
Just make this thing, presentable. I would look into some of the details, some of the proportions. The chimney, just a very long, slender look. Maybe that's an element there. Maybe a material should be proposed to that to kind of break that facade elevation. But I think by adding the travertine, the way it's being called out, seeing the material, seeing the product itself, those will definitely help. And knowing that if we're approving a Spanish tile or a flat, asphalt shingles.
Yeah, I think it's it's already going to be a very different style for that area.
Right.
It's adjacent homes, and I think when you're already doing a different style and you're doing it very boxy, I think that's sort of doubling, kind of the import. That's why I think that one side, the left side, I think is important. I don't know how important it is to everybody else, but I think it's a way of letting the home be a little bit more sympathetic to the area. But I don't know how strong you guys feel about it. But
There are definitely ways, as Mr. Carter was mentioning, about this porch.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just, and I'm look to my colleagues to help me, the front facade of this. Now, mind you, there's a big tree in the front that'll ameliorate some of the impact. But I always wanted to be the guy that designed the 24 square foot condo porches, because I knew exactly where the geranium plant should go with those things, because they're ridiculous. You can park a bike out there and your laundry. And so I always get hinky about like a pretend porch and a pretend. But if you're telling me that really actually is at least some kind of a design element and presents something in a front facade, then I could buy off on that.
I can give a suggestion how to make this area a little bit more integrated and the back of the building is solid retaining wall, so you don't have any kind of a light or ventilation or air or any kind of an access to the front. To the side, you got this open area with windows, which is nice. But to the front, you got these nice trees, and you're creating this porch, and maybe you want to create some, rather than having those windows to be just windows, maybe you want to have these doors that open up into this little patio area that is part of like a sitting area and becomes part of the landscape that Mr. Gabriel was suggesting that we should add as far as the landscape plan and create this outdoor seating area. When you're sitting in this living room and you're walking in or this dining room, it'll be a nice kind of a lanai area, sitting, maybe a fountain, maybe a brick paving, something there that creates some interest there, so you can open up, you enjoy that area. So that becomes a little bit more.
I think that's what I'm drawing. Rather than have a sort of a pretend porch, embrace it and have something really nice.
I think he needs to, do some furniture layouts in those areas. To make it easier for them to really utilize that space, instead of making it into like a hallway. It looks like a hallway passage. And the columns may be smaller than 2x2s. I think it's a little bit overkill.
It's actually tapering.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
Is it?
That sort of brings up the point. There's another element, which is, the style doesn't really lend itself to wainscoting like that. So, if it's going to have stone on it, it sort of pushes it more like a Tuscany or something like that.
Exactly.
In which case, you do elements that are stone, like the entry piece would be stone up to the mid-level. And then if you did that, maybe you don't have to do the little mansard there. You just bring the stone up, and that becomes that nice base element for the lower floor. Then the upper floor is stucco. So I think if it tries to be more like itself rather than kind of mixing things, I just think it's unfortunate when you see the wainscot on a house that doesn't really make sense to the style.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it would be stronger on the small house.
And I'd like the applicant to know that when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, great, just have a nice, presentable front facade and do everything in the back. But now I am sympathetic that there are retaining walls. There is some problems in just doing everything in the back. So I am aware of that. but I think the front facade can be a plus, can be an inviting area.
Can we hear the comments and then a motion, please?
Okay, Mr. Chair, the overall comments that I have, first being to reduce the massing on the north elevation and provide more articulation for the overall design. Second being provide more information on finishes. Simplify the roof design and provide more details. Reflect materials accurately, provide samples, brochures, etc. And I also have a comment simplifying the railing detail. Those are overall comments that I have picked up.
I think I would be leaning more, and you guys can tell me if you want. I mean, I think if there is going to be stone, I mean, obviously we want to see what it is, but I think it would be nice if that lower element, and maybe that is what wraps around the north side to help, break up that facade. But I really do think that there needs to be something happen on the second floor on that north side. It's got to come in some way. But
Board Member Garagos, could you clarify, is it the south elevation?
No, north.
They're saying north is the left side, so if you're staring at the front, the left.
So you're not, when you're referring to more articulation or embellishment, you're not referring to the south elevation, because that essentially is an existing
No, I'm saying the north
wall.
elevation.
You're talking about
The one with the
north
chimney.
elevation.
The one with the chimney, north elevation.
The one with the chimney. And you're wanting to see more articulation in that, and perhaps
It could be something as simple as just half of the second floor back, and then bringing the stone around that you're doing in the front, bringing it around that side. So as you're seeing that whole facade, which is now two-story with the one-story next to it, it'll have something going on now that.
Okay, so some movement in the floor plan on the second floor, so that there's a change of planes on that north elevation,
Right.
in addition to material detailing and use that would embellish whatever those architectural moves are. I think Gabe reflected the concerns regarding conflicting information or lack of information. If maybe we could take a few moments to go over more of the actual comments on the design, because I think we heard a number of different things, particularly in relation to style. And that was, frankly, something that was a real challenge as we worked with the applicant. Because this is very different than what was originally presented to staff, and there is a mix of styles in the area. So I guess I'm asking the question because I'm not exactly, we would really like to help the applicant, give the applicant guidance on a direction to go in, because it's, that particular point has been challenging, and we're looking to the board for maybe maybe if there are alternative choices, some specific choices that can be
What would you
voiced.
characterize this as presented?
I'm not sure what it says in the staff report. We may have not actually talked about style, because we would probably characterize this as a modern interpretation of a traditional style, or a simplified traditional style, because the existing house, as you know, is what historians might characterize as minimalist modern style or minimalist traditional. There are unusual terms that are used for those that post-war period, and the applicant had hoped to transform the style and embellish the style. And so we worked with the applicant in a way to keep it simple, because that seemed to relate better to the neighborhood. So specifically, we've heard from some board members that, well, it doesn't really look very interesting enough, and maybe it can be Tuscan, which frankly is a very challenging style because of, when we look at Tuscan and we look for precedents of Tuscan, then you have even more of a challenge to get authentic materials.
Very modern interpretation.
Right.
I mean, there's a struggle.
Mr. Baladian, when he was speaking, said, look at other neighborhood styles to redesign the style of the house, maybe. I mean, that's kind of general, but are there successful houses in the neighborhood that you saw that maybe they could?
Well, I'm struggling because, I mean, if it's Mediterranean, let's stick to Tuscany. If it's a French style, struggle here. I mean, this is the problem that a lot of people have been struggling. They call it Mediterranean, but it's not, or modern. They call it. Have the homes and more Mediterranean or Tuscany.
Yeah. Again, because this has come up before, we've had some challenges implementing that particular comment. So just so that we can be clear, if they do move more towards a Mediterranean or Tuscan design influence, then what we heard was that particular elements might be stone or stone veneer, such as the full entry element, or perhaps the full entry and colonnade element, and then also the chimney, and the rest would be stucco with no wainscot, for example.
For example.
Okay. Or they could simplify and go to a more ranch type direction. The ranch type direction is frankly challenging because of the form of the house. It doesn't, because it's a fairly compact, fairly vertical house, so that contradicts somewhat the ranch style. But I think we're a little bit more clear now on what you're looking for, because what you're reacting to is that this seems to be a combination of styles and not one clear architectural statement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I think we understand what you're looking for on the north elevation as far as articulation, what you're looking for as far as style. As far as the roof goes, we could see that the plan drawing has a cricket, and as was pointed out, the elevation showed the roofs connected with a ridge in the opposite direction, which is different than what's reflected on the plan. One thing that we heard was that it would be preferable if the two forms were integrated as one form. That was probably not something that we encouraged the applicant to do, because we were looking for it to not be a single form, and we thought the existing form could be architecturally separated somewhat in a way in order to break up the form of the house.
Problem. They could do the California style. I mean, extend and connect those two roofs to make it into one design structure roof. They could articulate it, but instead of having a valley coming.
Okay, so there's a concern about the valley because it won't function properly.
No.
Basically.
It
Okay.
won't look.
So to reconsider the roof for actual better drainage and function. Okay. And the fact that it's not well coordinated, this again was a challenge for all of us.
Also, I would recommend the applicant to revisit the window sizes on the elevation, like on the front elevation, you have the size of the windows. Like you have smaller windows here, and then you have a larger windows, kind of have a kind of a symmetry. If you're going to go this size, maybe try to work out this size of windows on this side. They're bedrooms, I believe.
Yeah.
Have more entrance to define the entrance. Need to rework the window sizes, and also if the space it's 12-inch, that's match it on the other side to make the cleaner framing.
To be fair to the applicant, it's likely that we encouraged a variety of window sizes, so I just want to own up to that. But I definitely see what you're asking for, that could be looked at again, in addition to the fact that it's maybe represented slightly differently than we would see it, because you would not actually have that rim around the window. So we can work with the applicant to clarify the opening size. One point that I want to mention is that there was a request for a detail at the roof, detail at the balcony, detail at the windows. You can absolutely ask for that, and we will work with the applicants to make that happen. I just wanted to be clear that this is something that the board has been asking for fairly consistently. It's been a real challenge for us in working with the applicant to get those details in the way that the board is looking for. So I just wanted to... I get that. I just wanted to
It'll make it easier for later inspection.
It's not deemed complete without those details.
Well, we can't.
Got it.
You can't make that a condition?
We can
Make it a
You can
condition.
make it a condition. We're just wanting to reflect that it has been a challenge for us to implement. We're not.
But you find a point on it, but if it's a condition of being complete, what's the problem?
Well, you're making this a condition of the next go-around, I think, to this house.
As far as submittal, it's not a
It
condition.
wouldn't be deemed complete.
Right, we
without the
can't.
Addition of it. I mean, we're asking for landscape plans as a condition of.
And the applicants can choose.
I'm just asking, just for
Yeah,
knowledge. just
the
for
applicants can choose not to provide them, and then we note that in staff report. It's not.
We asked them to give us a landscape plan. Can they decide not to give us a landscape plan?
Sure, they can, and then we note that.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could deem it complete without having those elements.
Well, what we
Deem
can deem complete is we have a submittal requirements checklist, and everything on that checklist, if they haven't provided something on that checklist, we can deem the project incomplete because it was supposed to be, it was a submittal requirement. If there's something like window details that isn't on the submittal requirements checklist, that's something that we can't deem the project incomplete for because it wasn't on that list.
Okay.
You can make it a condition. It would behoove them to provide that.
But they aren't required. Okay,
Because,
fair enough.
When it comes back, you're going to look at it, and we're going to reflect it in the staff report as to, yes, this was provided, and we think this satisfies your condition, or no, this wasn't provided, and all of a sudden it's more of an adversarial relationship.
So we can
because-
deny based on the fact that they didn't provide it, though, right?
Well,
Okay, that's fine.
Sure.
Okay.
Stephanie, in all the things, I guess I'm encouraging staff that on the front facade, for me, to encourage realistic, usable space in those details. I mean, I would approach it as like if we said the only thing you can do is some front facade work. We're not going to allow you to do anything else. Would you design a balcony that no one could really sit on? Would you design So if you could just encourage.
My apologies. I didn't reflect that back in the comments. You were very clear about that,
Right.
and so what we will do that is make it either a consideration or a condition that we can actually condition that the porch and the balcony be designed so that it is more functional and usable. We could suggest that there should be doors going from the living room out to the porch, that the porch could be deeper in dimension so that it could be more usable, the balcony be
And what
deeper
I'm
in
also
dimension.
saying is if the applicant says, hey, look, we never intended to do anything with that porch, we're going to sit 20 feet from cars driving down Glenmore, then think about abandoning, put their details somewhere else.
That if it is going to be included in the design, it should be a functional element.
Okay.
There was also a comment on the columns being too massive. I don't know. That's
I think it probably depends on how the style.
right.
Yeah, that's the kind of detail we'll work with the applicant on, depending upon the style. I think Mr. Foy wants to add some.
Well, just because the board's had a really good discussion about the information you get on plans, and what sorts of things we're required to see, I just wanted to note, one of the board members said that some of his dissatisfaction with the design might be ameliorated by the large tree in front. Now, as additions to single-family homes do not require a landscape plan. Could ask for a landscape plan, I'm not suggesting it, but absent one, you might just want to require as a condition that a tree stay. And again, this might be a moot point next time you see this design, but just to keep that in mind, that
I thought we are asking for a landscape.
I guess I was making kind of a general point.
Your staff has recommended a landscape.
Would you also like to add to that requirement for the landscape plan consideration for mature trees on the property to remain?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
As Mr. Foy points out, you could drive by there and those trees could both be gone. Is that what you're indicating?
Well, if we put a
Right.
condition, then it won't be.
Okay.
Unless they're a protected species,
All right.
without
Right.
something really saying they're going to stay.
Can we have a motion, please?
Make a motion, as we discussed. I would only add that probably want to clarify what the garage door is.
Yeah, I think as a general.
The general statement.
we need to-
The garage door is noted as roll-up painted aluminum door.
He said
So
it's
you want, oh, I see.
if it's
Okay,
raised or
so
raised or-
a cut sheet showing the design and that of everything, we got that.
Yeah.
And that all of we should probably add that all of the details and materials should reflect and reinforce the chosen design influences or be consistent with the architecture.
And they have to be drawn correctly.
And they have to be drawn correctly and consistently.
Motion?
There's a motion. I'll second that motion.
What was the motion?
What was the motion?
Everything that was said.
No,
Just a motion.
But a motion to...
Motion to
it's
send
sim-
back for redesign with the comments. Sorry about that. I was being flippant, and I shouldn't have been. Sorry.
Okay, this is a motion for return for redesign. Motion made by Mr. Garagos, second by Mr. Carter. This is roll call. Mr. Garagos.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Mr. Baladian.
Yes.
Mr. Malekian.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break.
5 minute, good. 5 minute recess.
Okay. Guess we're on. Are you ready?
Yes.
Good evening, Chairman Malakian and board members. This last case before you is case number 2 PDR 2008-082-A, located at 1618 Heather Ridge Drive. This is a first-time submittal for final review. The project proposes to demolish an existing single-family house with an attached two-car garage. The existing house is one-story, and the new project proposes to construct a new two-story house, 4,171 square feet, and will be provided with a three-car attached garage. The property is zoned R1 All-Floor Area District 2, and it's located in the Woodlands neighborhood. The subject lot is located on a street that slopes down in the west-east direction, and homes are built to follow the slope. As you can tell, there's also photos behind you that sort of illustrate that characteristic. Essentially, homes are built on pads, one higher than the other, creating this stepping appearance throughout the entire street. The proposed home will be constructed on the pad created for the existing house, essentially. However, the footprint will be a little bit larger, and the orientation of the garage will also be different. The existing garage right now is located to the west of the property, facing the street, and the proposed three-car garage will be located on the eastern portion of the property that does not directly face the street. The applicant has taken steps to improve the mass and scale given that this is a two-story house, by placing the second story further away from the property lines. This treatment also breaks up the building planes and reduces the perceived mass and scale. As you can see in the front elevation, the second floor is set behind the three-car garage. So this appears to improve the relationship that the second story will have to the character of the street and the rhythm of the streetscape. The same treatment is provided along the side and the rear elevation. Particularly, just to note, the side elevations facing the east and west property lines are treated a little bit differently, just so that there's consideration of privacy to the neighbors to the west and east. These elevations are provided with fewer windows and smaller windows, as well as balconies that face the front and a balcony that faces the back. The project shows influences of the ranch style reflected in the unadorned facades with straight lines and angles, the simple building forms, and the treatment of the horizontal base. The shape of the windows also reinforce the chosen style. Overall, it shows some cohesiveness that's reflected in the architectural detailing, material, and the building mass and scale, as well as the form. The mix of material also provides some visual interest, and it also helps in breaking up the mass and scale of the building, as the color scheme also appears appropriate to this project. In working with the applicant and the property owners, issues over privacy were raised due to the scale and height of the project. The property to the east is developed with a one-story residence with a unique site planning. This property is designed with a courtyard containing a pool, a spa, and outdoor entertaining area on the side closest to the subject property. That is depicted clearly on the aerial photograph behind you on that screen, the layout of this subject property and the relationship with the neighbor. This home also makes extensive use of glass. The project appears to satisfactorily address this concern in a number of ways. In the fenestration pattern on the east elevation, the orientation of the balconies, and the additional second floor setback that fronts the east property line. Also important to point out is the existing landscape along the east property line, which is, in general, the existing property is minimally landscaped, consisting of many lawn and some palm trees in the rear. However, along the east property line, as shown in the aerial photograph, there exists a lush or mature hedge that's considerably high, and there's also a pine tree. So this landscaping ensure another level of privacy to the neighbor to the east. Staff recommends approval of this project with conditions. Condition number 1, the amount of landscape in the front setback should be reduced as much as possible, and additional landscaping should be removed. No, the amount of hardscape, I'm sorry.
That's the first.
It's the first time I heard that one.
I heard myself saying that. The amount of hardscape in the front setback should be reduced as much as possible, and additional landscaping should be provided. This is so that the relationship of the new two-story house will be improved in regards to the streetscape, and also to be more consistent with the Woodlands neighborhood. The garage is close to the entrance and should be separated further apart to improve circulation and flow. If I may point that out to you, this is the area I'm talking about. This is a two-car garage, and this is a third-car garage. So this area appears to be tight, so particularly when you have a car parked here. So that's the intent of that condition.
Push that out, or is it possible? I mean, are they within
There's a foot and a half left in terms of the setback towards the front. Third condition, eaves and overhang should be open, not closed or boxed. Fourth, columns supporting the front covered entries and balcony should be of a simple square design in appropriate weight. 5, the supporting columns, walls of the rear balcony and covered patio should appear wide and heavy and should be reduced and made lighter in appearance. 6, all windows should be either awning, casement, single hung, double hung, or combination thereof, and constructed of wood or fiberglass with divided light. Windows should be recessed from the face of the wall. The entry doors should be clean, simple design as shown on the front elevation that is consistent with the style of the house. And 9, the garage door should be wood or fiberglass with horizontal expression. 10, the existing landscape and tree located along the east property line should be protected during and after construction to ensure an added level of privacy. And number 11, which is not reflected in the staff report, staff is unclear as to the tile materials proposed for the base of the building and is looking to the board for guidance and whether a condition is needed for the project to use wood or hardy plank instead. And that concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Okay, we have several cards. Edward Hagopian.
Oh, and also, just for the record, staff received letters of support as well as some letters of opposition in opposition of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Edward Hagopian, and my address is 220 South Kenwood Street, Suite 210, Glendale 91205. I'm the architect of this project. I would like to have a great welcome to say to Mr. Palladian. This is the first time I had the opportunity. So I think rather presentation of rather was very complete and covered most of the things. I would like to add a very important issue that, okay, we'll get there, but let me start first that we started this project about almost 11 months ago. And after we designed the project in Mediterranean style and we finished it, and we submit with all colored elevations and renderings and perspective, we were advised by Stephanie that in that neighborhood, the predominant style is the ranch style. So what I did, I went again there to the neighborhood. I'm sure that you have seen the pictures of the neighborhood. I have prepared these 2 pages that will include all of these houses.
Thank you.
So after carefully studying these houses, I found out that Stephanie is right and I was wrong, and I have wasted a lot of time. So I redesigned the project again. I bought 3 more books of ranch style from the library, from the bookstores, and start to study that and start to design the project. And the first thing that came to my mind that was the setback from the right side of the property, because we have a neighbor there that they have their swimming pool facing our side, and the original design was 15-foot setback for the second floor, which usually, you know, that setback is 10 feet. We made it 15 feet. But during the process, after we visited our neighbors and he was not happy with that, we added 2 more feet after the setback of the second floor, so we made it 17 feet. This is very unusual. I haven't done this before, but we did it because we could, and we were very careful about our, we had a sympathy to our neighbor not to invade the privacy, even though that I have pictures here showing from their side towards our side that they have the framing, this framing.
You need to speak in that.
This framing, what you see there, is before we pushed another 2 feet from the property line, and it's almost impossible to have any view from our property to their property, especially because it's lower. And if this was the same level of our property, we could see even something from our upper level. But however, even we don't have windows facing that direction. I have, by the way, one more supporting letter from one of the neighbors. These are all immediate neighbors. I gave you 5 of 5 neighbors. They They support the project, and this is the sixth one. And when I studied carefully this condition, I would say that I agree with most of them, and it's already there, like recessed window, like horizontality in the garage door design, like, let's see. Windows are all recessed. If you look in the plans of first and second floor, wherever we have exposed window flush with the elevation, that window is set back, except the windows that are inside a covered balcony. Those are not recessed, unless if the board requires that. One of the conditions is to have the entry door the way we have designed. Of course, we do the same thing, whatever we have designed it. Regarding the landscaping, I have a plan here that I will hand you later on that there is a possibility of adding a little bit more landscaping to bring it, the landscaping percentage, almost to what we have today. Other than that, I have tried to have articulations in all elevations as much as possible. The colors are changed to be earth tone colors to match the hillside requirements. Materials will be quality materials like aluminum wood-clad windows and doors. Roof material is high quality material, and these are the things that I can think of. Do you have any other questions, or I forgot to say things that important?
Mr. Okopen, I have a question. What's the base of the horizontal lines, the darker?
Okay.
What is
the
that?
base, this time I'm thinking to use tile. Tile that is not shiny, is matte, and scale of that is important for me. I don't want very narrow brick size things that, first of all, why I'm using that, because it's close to the dirt to splash off the rainwater and the landscaping and things like that. I want to protect that portion of the bottom of the house. And as I said, the brick dimension and proportion material is not what I think is proper or is what I have in my mind. I am trying to use a little bit wider scale material, which will be a tile material that is matte and is not shiny, and mostly with horizontal joints to enhance the horizontality of the house.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you. Is Zaria Meeting? Lynn Foster? No.
Hi, my name is Lynn Foster. Do I need to move this down at all?
Sure.
I always have to. I live at 1670 Arbolis Drive. I went by the house today. I went by the house next door today, and the one that's on the downhill slope from the proposed house. And I knocked on the door and went in, and I noticed that if you look at the proposed project from the street, you can't possibly imagine the impact on the downhill home from the street. You really have to go into that home. It is all glass. It's a jewel of a mid-century modern gorgeous house, and it would be a crime to cover the glass. It's all glass. Now, you can look from inside there and see the story poles above the mature landscaping. So they will be able to look straight in to the downhill slope home. and the pool area and so forth. I think one of the balconies overlooks it. I just, in general, have a problem because even though the report says there's a stepping appearance to the neighborhood, it's obvious that the whole idea of that neighborhood was one-story homes, so nobody's going to be encroaching on somebody's view or somebody's privacy. And it just seems to me that once these people have built their two-story home and have their lovely backyard with the pool, how would they like it if the uphill house built another story to look down on their pool, and the downhill house built another story to interfere with their view of the mountains? It seems to me that to respect all the neighbors, the whole idea of that step down was that everybody has privacy and everybody has a little view. And it seems to me that this kind of negates the planning that went into that originally. The other thing I just wanted to say was the setback. One of the things it says in here in the report, that the single-family neighborhood analysis and guidelines stress the importance of architectural significance, high-quality landscape, and uniform front setback distances for new construction or major renovations. And this is going from 35 feet to 16 and a half, which is less than half of the distance. It just seems like a big ignoring of that particular guideline.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
And if maybe staff could help. Does this accurately reflect the view you saw from the...
You need to speak in the mic, if you can.
You can take that back.
Is it the same house?
Generally, yes, except from inside the home. I think it appeared more visible. The only other thing I have to say, and there's something like that going on my street these days, although they made it a one-story house after all. But there was landscaping much like this. It was supposed to be, it was one of the conditions was that it be kept, and the first thing they did was take it all down. It's gone. So there's nothing that can be done about it once it's gone. So I don't know who enforces that stuff, but it would be kind of a shame if that were gone and you could just see straight down into their pool area.
That's not part of their property. So if I can ask you a question. So your main objection is the privacy for this?
It is, and it's a general issue for me, too, not just for this home, but this home is particularly susceptible because of the style of it. It's just all glass. And I just, I think, it's no pun, slippery slope, but it is kind of a slippery slope when you start doing it in all different neighborhoods, then they all lose their character.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is it Marianne Prelock? She locked.
We're just going to have her letter.
Okay. All right. Okay. And
Is that the letter you wanted to read?
okay. Is it Leanne Reynolds?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Leanne Reynolds. I live at 1510 Princess Drive, so in the general Royal Canyon, Greenbrier area. And in regards to the Marianne Prelock letter, I'd be happy to read it. She wanted me to read it, but I understand I'd only have 3 minutes between what I have to say and the letter. So since that's on record, I just give you the letter. Yes. I'm here representing the neighborhood. I'm also on the board of the Royal Canyon area, so I'm intimately knowledgeable about all the streets. And I'm also a realtor with GNC Properties, and we specifically represent some of the better character homes in Glendale. I've had the opportunity to see this site. I've also been in the home to the east and to the west, so I personally have viewed the impact on this particular project. And for 3 different reasons, I am really strongly opposing this specific application and the way it is. We've all talked about how Heather Ridge has all of the homes tiered, and it was built for a reason. It has harmony for all the homes so that the views and the privacy is protected. And I don't believe that this home was ever built next door, the one that we're referring to, the exemplary mid-century home, was ever built with the thought of having a 2-story home on another side of it. I don't think the architect ever envisioned that or would not have built that beautiful home there. So I do think there's going to be some valuation damage in the neighborhood to the two homes on either side. One's going to lose privacy by the home looking down, and the other one, there's now, which is a two-story, is going to be looking straight at walls. So there's no view, there's no light, nothing looking to the south for the home above it. So both of those homes, I think, are going to be directly impacted. The area is mostly single-family ranch homes. The two-story homes around there are mostly add-ons, and those add-ons, I think, are hideous, and I don't think that they would be approved by the Design Review Board today if they were built as they were built, some of these two stories. And I didn't bring a list, but I can provide that if you would like. Almost all of the two stories on Heather Ridge have been in short sales or foreclosures in the last 2 years because the add-ons have been so hideous. So really, this is meant to be a single-family, one-story neighborhood, except for perhaps a few nice two stories, but most of them, as I said, have been a real problem on that block, devaluing the property. I'm also afraid that this might trigger copycats. This is a very long and narrow lot. It's only 80 feet wide. You only have a 10-foot setback to your neighbors. It's squeezed in. Instead of doing a longer one-story and doing a new swimming pool, they could probably have a 4,000 square foot one-story. But instead, they want to just go up and out onto the street and squeeze into that spot, and I don't think that's going to add any value to that neighborhood. So for all those reasons, I think you should reconsider the design. This is a premier neighborhood in the city of Glendale. What you're doing is going to impact valuations in the neighborhood, not just for the neighbors on either side, although those will be immediately and dramatically impacted. So I think that this is something that deserves the utmost consideration. Thank you.
So Michael Andrews.
Hi, I'm Michael Andrews. Thanks for listening. I live at 1612, which is the house in to the east. My wife and child and I moved there almost 3 years ago, and were immediately taken by what we considered to be its complete privacy and non-encroachment of any kind. I think that just as a on a philosophical note, being a young Glendale homeowner, I just want you guys to know that we look to you here in the Planning Department and on the Design Review Board to help maintain the architectural intent and dialect of our neighborhoods. As of now, our houses are completely discreet. We enjoy open skies, sunlight, complete visual privacy. Since we are on a steep upgrade, the idea of a two-story house on an upslope presents a problem for my family. Everybody's talked about it already. What happens when this house is built is, from our perspective, it's a 35-foot house. And you can see from the photos that, especially the night shot, and I'm not saying that, and I want to really stress that this is no evaluation of any character of either ourselves or our neighbors. What it is I want to stress that it's a relationship of structures, because I feel like the structures are going to be there long after we are not. And I think that, we moved into our house with the intent of restoring it, and we have gotten some attention from Jay Platt and Marianne Prelock, who claim that, that we should pursue historical status. I guess here's the situation. The situation is that dividing us is this hedge. Partially is claiming that it's not even on our property. It's on the 1618 property. Not to say that they're going to chop it down. I don't think either of us want to be looking into each other's houses. I know that, but let's assume that the hedge stays. I would grow the hedge, and I've been growing the hedge. Let's assume that that's the best case scenario. The hedge, the house, and I know it doesn't look like that, but if you were to stand, I encourage all of you to come over to my house and stand in my home and stand in my pool area. I mean, this is a pool. This is where people like sit around in the summer with their clothes off and things like that. You know, we want our privacy. We bought the house because of it. Best case scenario, the hedge lives. I'm okay with a new home next door to us, and I'm okay with it. I would prefer that I maintain the sun. Right now, looking at the story poles, around 5 o'clock we lose the sun at our place now. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going. Worst case scenario, the hedge dies.
30 more seconds. Is
Okay,
that okay?
worst case scenario, the hedge dies because the building is right up to it. Yes, there is a 17-foot setback. It's a partial 17-foot setback, and it shouldn't be confused with a complete 17-foot setback. If it was a complete 17-foot setback, this might be a little bit of a different story. If you look in the house, if you look in the neighborhood, most of the houses that are 2 stories, everybody's been talking about the step up. The place that's close to the lower, the part of the lot that's closer to the lower lot is 1 story, then up on the top. Okay, yeah, you want to go 2 stories. It's an exception. You make a nice looking house. I don't think this house is a terrible looking house. I think they've made strides to make it better, and I think it's a good start. But I don't think, as it stands, I do not support its development. And I urge you guys to take a real good look at it and come over to my house and see how it's going to affect my life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jasmine Kachiki.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members, and staff. My name is Jasmine Kachiki. We are residing in 1618 Heather Ridge Drive. And I am here speaking on behalf of my husband and my 2 sons that are present here. As usual, the hard task is on the shoulder of mothers, so they put me in front of you. We came to Glendale in 1991, November of 1991, and we bought our house in June 1997. We were very happy. It was our house, and when we bought the house, since we bought the house, I should rather say that we always visiting and revisiting the idea of remodeling, extending the house, or rebuilding. And fortunately, by now, we have the capability of doing it, and we would like to move on and have our dream house built in that area and in that residence. As our neighbors mentioned, this is a fabulous neighborhood, and we would like to continue living here. I would love to mention that my husband and I have raised 2 wonderful kids. One, Emin, which is the older one, he's working on his master's in psychology, and Arin is currently in Glendale Community College, and since he is accepted to many different major universities, he's now always debating which one I should take, like UCLA, USC, help me here? Pepperdine, and etc. So, as I say, we would like to continue living in this area. We would like to contribute to this area. I think when we build this area, it's going to make it even nicer, more valuable, and we have done our best to work with staff, Roder and Stephanie, to bring the home as presented and it's compatible as it is to the neighboring areas. As Mr. Hakopian mentioned, we had something totally different before, but when we started working with the staff, they recommended that we go with the ranch style because it is more compatible with the area. So we redesigned everything so we can make happy our neighbors, and we want to be happy in here too. And I would like to mention that we did everything to maintain the privacy of our neighbors. We have 17-foot feedback, and there is no way that we can see from our balcony, upstairs balcony, their yards. We have elevated the wall, so there is a small opening. So we have make sure that everything is done that the way that they are happy and we are happy. And I would like ask the chairman and members to approve this project. Thank you very much. Thanks very much.
All right. We don't have any more cards. I apologize.
I would like to give you some pictures of the same neighborhood. The lady was mentioning that our neighbor to the left has the same problem with us, which is not true. This is the picture between us and the neighbor to the left side of the problem. And this is another picture of the same property, overlooking to our backyard. Even there is no hedges in between, but we never, the owner never complained about that. But if they say that it's possible, I tried to look through these hedges and see the backyard. It was impossible. Not only because of the hedges, but because of the, it's so deep that angle of the looking to this backyard goes by far beyond the swimming pool. This is another picture, same street, another house, 2-story, exactly same situation. Again, our neighbor mentioned about complete setback. I would like to show you from here with this. This is the setback that we have for the second floor. Just a small jog here to have some articulation. Otherwise, there is no window at all here towards the neighbor. Even our balconies, these two balconies, if you look in the elevations, you will see that it is blocked. 5 foot of it is blocked so that there will be no view. However, I think the good light and the sun comes from the south, not from the west. And there are a lot of houses in Glendale that even 1-story houses next to each other. Looking to the side, you will see your neighbor's wall. In this case, with the 17-foot setback, even you don't see that. So the foreclosures, by the way, she was mentioning, that's not because of people building new houses. As you can see, 6 of our neighbors, they sent a letter, and they know why they did that. They know that a new and nice and better house built in that neighborhood will raise the value of the houses. Not if the foreclosures have nothing to do with the houses to be built in that neighborhood. That's because of the recession or some other issues, I don't know. That's all I can say, and I am asking to look at this project favorably and to approve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public session is closed.
Can I have you request of Tim just to do the little once-over about our abilities with second stories and what our limits are?
Sure.
What we can do.
Tim, did you hear
Ask
that?
that of Tim.
Is he here? Oh.
Can you give us a quick once-over to everybody about what our limits are in terms of approving or disapproving second floors and...
Sure.
Just a quick once-over for everybody.
Yeah. We do have privacy regulations that have been added to the standards that the board should be considering. They apply in the R1 zones, and you are supposed to judge privacy only from certain locations of the new structure or the existing structure that is subject of the proposal. And those are the areas generally where people spend the most time, family rooms, kitchens, things like that, but not from areas where people are going to spend the least time, such as a bedroom. However, one exception to that could be from a balcony off a bedroom, which is larger than 25 square feet. So you would judge privacy impacts from what we call the primary living areas plus any balcony that's over 25 square feet. Does that answer your question?
Just so they know that we can't deny a second story.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You can't deny it just for those concerns. However, the board could see if there were, reasonable alternatives to having placement of windows or balconies that might prevent an unwarranted intrusion of privacy.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me just the opening salvo, because I guess from my mind I can eliminate certain things, and we've had applicants and people speaking for and against projects always bring up the economic considerations, what'll be a good deal, or what. So it works both ways. And for the people in opposition, I can eliminate, in my thinking, concerns about property values in the design area. But for the applicant, that cuts the other way too. It doesn't mean that having the most square footage is also a good deal too. So I can take both of those off of my table. Looking at this area, I found compelling the thought that the initial development of this area probably didn't envision 2 stories on the upslope, on the upside. If we're looking for historical beginnings, they probably didn't envision that. So I take that very seriously. Privacy, it's funny, I'd love to go back and just argue about craftsmen. It's a lot easier than talking about privacy issues. So let me just put those 2 out there and kick the ball to someone else, and maybe we can come around.
I guess I'll go. The only reason I had Mr. Foy mention that about the second floors is that we do have a limit in terms of aspects we can deny based on that. There's probably nothing more unfortunate than the second floor going in and removing privacy. No question about that. And I think it's because of that, like I said on the previous project, when you do a second floor in an area that has single stories around it, especially adjacent, you have to be very sensitive to it. And so consequently, I think in a general massing sense, I don't really have the ability to deny the second floor, whether it is or not, so that's beside the point. But I do think that even though the windows are to minor rooms, as Mr. Floyd has just discussed, I'd be more inclined to have the massing pull in on the second floor. I don't have a problem with second floors. I just think that you need to be a little bit more sensitive about how the rest of the massing on the street is. At least I do. So consequently, I think if some of those projections that come out the side, which I think in another situation, maybe if there were other second floors immediately adjacent, maybe if it was more of a level series of lots, I think those projections on the side I think would be nice, because I think they add interest to the side and all those kind of positive elements. But I do think it gives it a more of a massiveness and a presentation of a second floor. I think that probably isn't as helpful with the neighbors. So just as that as a starting point, I think that for me, I think there's might be other ways that you could deal with those projections that happen out the side that I think could help minimize the feeling, especially on the neighbor and whatnot, of kind of minimizing the impact of what that new two-story would be in that area. Second issue, I'm just wondering, because we had the other one with the recessed windows, I'm actually not really clear why that was given a requirement, because I don't know that it's as necessary on this style building on a ranch that you would have recessed windows. So I would sort of question that as a requirement. I think if you looked at other windows, it would be some type of wood trim or something to be more in keeping with a ranch style. So I don't exactly know why that was given a requirement. But in terms of the banding on the bottom, I mean, I guess you could go either way. It might be interesting to do the tile if it worked out. I mean, the stone if it worked out in a horizontal band. So I guess I would be open. I'd be open to that. See how that worked out if we had examples of it. I think my natural inclination would be probably to do a horizontal siding, but obviously we do have to see how that comes about. But in general, I think it's not bad. I just think that there might be, I don't know what your plan was previously when it was Mediterranean, but I think when I look at that northeast elevation or the northwest elevation, I could sort of see those as a Spanish element in terms of how the massing was working. So those may be kind of holdovers from the other style. So, because I think that sort of two-story mass that sort of works up like that, I think would be very nice in a Spanish style. But I don't think it's necessary here, and I think it also unnecessarily pushes the width out for neighbors. So in general, I think I'm supportive. I just would want to bring those pop outs in as a recognition of the neighbors. So that would be my comment.
If I could clarify one point, when Mr. Foy answered your question regarding the second floor, the board is really prohibited from eliminating large areas of mass from a structure based on privacy alone.
Actually, I wasn't doing it for privacy.
So I just wanted to clarify that piece. If the board felt that the massing of a building in any way was not meeting with its context or not presenting a design that fit in with its context or neighborhood, the board could make any suggestions or recommendations that the code doesn't prohibit you or tie your hands in regards to massing.
Well, then let me clarify. I think the elements on the side for me, as I said, it was in a recognition of the fact that there are homes that are single-story around it, and it's a way of minimizing its impact on its neighbors. So it is a massing issue. It is not a privacy issue. And I guess also about the rear balcony, we should talk about that too. So.
Just as a clarification, the view that would present itself to the eastern property, which the gentleman spoke of, would be the southeast elevation. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hagopian, on the southeast elevation.
No, I need to ask him to come up. Yes.
Okay. On the southeast elevation, you show a window on the elevation, but on your...
It's the actual wall in the balcony. So he has a balcony. He raised the wall for privacy.
Yeah, it's
just an opening.
Okay. That will clarify.
May I ask Mr. Giragos which articulation you are
We're going to clarify that. We can't have, I mean, if you have questions...
To understand if that's
it's not done yet, so I don't want to have any cross communication here.
Okay. I don't know if, my colleagues said, pretty much I concur what they said in the conditions. Pretty much privacy, I don't have any comments beside what Randy and Virago said.
Well, I can't get enough of these pictures, but I love these pictures.
We can see those.
Yeah, I kept them here.
It's nice pictures.
I think everyone has the right and the but have the right to do whatever additions, whatever they need to see fit if the code and the zoning allows. As an approving body, as a design review body, as myself sitting here, I think I've been placed here to give my opinion about design and how it impacts to its neighbors and how it functions and how it works with its site and how it's been located. And we've given a set of guidelines. The guidelines are single-family resident guidelines, the neighborhood guidelines, and other guidelines that we have to follow. We have to look up zoning, and one of the guidelines that is given by the applicant is the architectural style and what their intent is. And from there on, it's our responsibility, it's my responsibility to review the design given of what it's been presented. To us, as a hillside design, it's always been encouraged that the design follows the contour of the hill. Having said that, there's many different examples within the area that we do see square boxes, basically, and that's pretty much, as a volume, as a front elevation, I see that as a square. But then once you start looking at it three-dimensionally, you start seeing the volumes being pushed in and out. But as you stand on the street actually slopes down from high to low, and we do have a one-story building to the east. What I would have liked to see, would have recommended, was to the massing of the second floor would have been in such a way that it would complement, similar to the way that the garage is one-story to two-story, would have followed the same kind of a concept. As far as the privacy, I don't think you'll have any issues as far as privacy. I think the only issue that you're going to have is you're going to have this mass. I can't. Yeah, I'm just looking at you talking, but I should be talking over here. So, no one's going to be able to look down from the location of the windows and the balcony into the lower section. I think it's more of the mass that we're talking about than anything else. I'm not sure if there's any ways that we can go ahead and massage the second floor as far as the function, the way it's laid out, elements, pushed around and in and out. But as being a ranch style, I would probably step back and say this is definitely not a true ranch style. It's more of a modern. I wouldn't even know, and so I think. Simplicity, I think it's a simple enough building that it's going to truly complement the building floor. So I think it's going to, if it was designed in a way that it was more of a lot more grandiose and a lot more other details of Mediterranean details and element, I think that would definitely hinder and it would affect the quality and the building. But I think I'm torn of seeing the large second floor mass. If there's ways that we can have that pushed back, I'm not talking about reducing the square footage. I'm not talking about changing the functions of the second floor. Mm-hmm. But I think as far as looking at the front building, having one square box, I would probably see kind of a stepping down element there. That's what I was thinking. So I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of reduction. I was really
I'm not
extending to the back maybe a little more, just
Yeah.
so you could bring in the side. The elements I'm talking about, if you look on the second floor plan, there's a closet, a toilet and a tub, and a closet and a bath that could be between the master closet, bedroom 2, and extending the area between the master and the bedroom 3, tuck those areas back into the building. You would push back into the backyard a little bit, but I think those could tuck into those interstitial spaces. I don't see that as being a problem. They're 16.4 is a dimension on the right. He's got 15 foot there. I mean, it seems like if you're doing the closet, you could fit that in between space. And then if you took the other closet and the toilet and tub, and you worked it, sort of reworked how the laundry was, so it went the other direction. I mean, I don't think it would be that. He's a very accomplished architect. I don't think he'd have trouble with that. So I think it would be a simple way of reducing its impact and be sensitive to the one-story neighbors. But that was my proposal.
What do you guys think?
Well, Alan, you sort of reminded me that you become so fixated on privacy, because it's an emotional thing, that it kind of takes your eye off massive, a massive appearance. If there was no privacy issues, we'd be talking a lot more about a mass look from the street. So maybe we can redirect towards that. And
massing to me, if it deliberately a balcony set on the side that it's literally looking straight down into that's privacy. That's a privacy issue. If you have a living room that it opens directly and you're looking straight into that's privacy.
Right.
Having a small window above a bathroom or within the area, no one's going to step up and go up 7 feet and look down another 30 feet down and look at that. But I think as far as massing, then we have a discussion. As far as privacy, I don't think we have any issues.
Yeah, it's in mine is really the massing. It's not the privacy.
I don't have an issue with the privacy.
Yeah.
Because of its setbacks. I mean, because of the setbacks.
Well, it's the size of the house. It's 4,000 square feet. I mean, the massing is going to become with the 4,000 square feet house automatically.
Right.
I mean, how much can you play with the 4,000 unless you cut it down the square footage? You can.
Well, I don't have a problem with the size of the house. I think it's more of
it's where it's
the style.
Where it's put.
Right.
I mean, this is not truly ranch.
Yeah.
It's not truly ranch.
It's pretty close. I mean, I did the windows differently. I think the windows should be done differently. But anyway.
You had a question.
Can I come closer to show you something?
I love the laser pointer, though. That should be up on the thing all the time.
I think maybe
That's
if
great.
we had exposed maybe the
You see this bathroom
it'd
here?
give more character.
Yes. In fact, that is for a short distance. If that is one of the things that you want me to eliminate, I can take this, insert into this area, so that you will see the setback like this.
That's what I was commenting on. Exactly. Yeah, and then the north side went the same way, or the other side.
Because there is already tiered back here.
Right. And then you have one on the other side, the pop out on the other side.
But what are we going to achieve with that?
Nothing will be achieved on the other side. The other side neighbor has no complaint. As a matter of fact, they are looking to our backyard, and we are peaceful neighbors, and we have no complaint from us and from them.
It wasn't. The issue wasn't a privacy issue. It was to minimize its impact, the second floor impact.
For the record, on that southeast elevation, we talked with the applicant about eliminating that piece as it popped out, and we thought, okay, well, our other choice is to have it be a full-height 2-story wall with less articulation. So I just wanted to own up to that piece.
No, it could still have the lower section. I'd like to have the roof below it.
So the roof over the balcony.
Yeah.
But I think that just to be transparent, that the concern was if that piece was eliminated, we talked with the applicant about the potential of having the blank wall, but we definitely see that if there's a roof covering the patio, it would maintain the 1-story look at that elevation.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of I don't know. Maybe it's breaking up. It's too vertical. Let's break it up.
Because if you make that room there too small, then this room, then it loses the function here. This one. But I can eliminate that pop out. It's not easy, but you have to do big window.
Mr. Malikian.
As the applicant is he's the one who's getting, well, yeah, but he's the one who's trying to get our approval. So you're as a
Ask me if he minds if I say something.
you can talk to each other.
We want to agree. I think we all want to solve the issue, and I think the thing is that I've been busy working, and I think that we would like to solve it. Relationship is good, and we would like to solve it. So, I would like to be able to, I'll talk to them directly.
We invited them to come to.
Okay, well,
actually,
that's fine.
we need to
Actually, I was out of line there, I guess, before they called from Channel 6 and tell us to stop. So,
5 minutes to finish?
well, you guys need to make a motion, so. Can't do that.
Well, anybody, well, okay, I'll make the motion. You want to make the motion? Okay. How do you guys feel? The only issue for me then is, the question is, how do you guys feel about that, what side is that? The east side? Is it the east side?
Yeah. Southeast elevation.
Southeast elevation, I think we all agree?
That's
Oh,
the
no.
privacy issues.
It'd be the east side of the house.
Not a privacy issue. Well, let's look at the front elevation. We'll do it that way. As you look at the front elevation, I'd like to remove the second floor section, and I'd like to remove the other side too, as a means of minimizing its impact.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that into the microphone? We didn't hear you clearly.
I guess I'll just say it from the floor plan because it might be better. Oh, it's not labeled.
Walk-in closet in the bathroom, pop out.
Yeah, walk-in closet and bathroom pop-outs on both. Is that east and west elevation to maintain the majority setback. The second issue would be the windows. I really don't think that's a consistent window trim style, so I think it's more Mediterranean style. That was two separate things.
Our understanding, and the applicant can clarify if we have it wrong, is when we talked previously on the previous application about the recess, our understanding is that these windows are in fact the nail-on windows that are utilized in a recess. Now, my sense is that if you say, well, they don't need to be recessed with this style, which we wouldn't disagree with you, we would very much like for you to specify if a nail-on window is okay, if a block frame would be required, if there would be some wood trim surround or some siding around at the finish. So those are all questions once you bring the window to the surface that we would need to know.
Yeah, the issue is I'm not sure that it's sort of in keeping with the style, and I agree that it brings up other issues. I think I would be more inclined to do a wood surround, much like the style would normally have. That would bring up a whole color question and all kinds of others. So if my colleagues were open to letting staff address that in a complementary color, I guess we could probably work that as a condition. I don't know how you guys feel about that. So
I would be comfortable with allowing staff to act on that.
And then I would add that revision to that condition to it about the window, and I'm not sure how to condition the base material. Do you guys have a way of addressing that? Any comments, Chairman? Any idea? Or do you want to? I think it's tough to just say the stone's okay if we don't really have a sample on it. So.
You don't have
the architect was talking about a large black matte non-gloss finish. What is it? Stone.
Yeah.
What is that? That's a slate. That's a.
Well, I'm just saying. Are you open to having it something that staff will review? And that's the question. When do you want it to be a stone, or are you thinking of it as a siding? Like I said, I'd be more inclined to think of it as a siding. I mean, only that it would be a little more consistent with what we're talking about now, but I don't know how you guys feel. Any comments? Anybody? Help me out.
Yeah. A siding.
Short of having it come back. If you want it to come back, we'll have it come back.
No.
Short of having it come back, we
I think
give them direction.
I don't know. I think that shortening that second floor, I don't know how much we're going to accomplish. I'm 50-50. Maybe exposing on the elevation, exposing the rafters, and maybe different color scheme with this stuff, maybe work with the stuff, the planner, to make it a little bit closer to ranch style, getting some walls into with siding, introducing some sidings to break up the massiveness. I don't know. There's a feel of horizontal, a feel of vertical. I mean, the front, I mean, it's the windows. That's about it. I don't know how I can make a decision on this one.
You know, I mean, we really are battling our first impulse. You know, it's when we signed off on like a 4,100 square foot house, as you said, Mr. Belaudian, you know, 4,000 square feet is 4,000 square feet. You're not going to suddenly, how do we make it look like 3,000 square feet? So
I don't know how.
How do you do it? I don't know. I thought you were appointed to bring that knowledge here, but
I'm thinking redesign it. I don't want to. I'm not here to redesign it.
Yeah. So, knocking that bathroom, you know, is a token, but I think it's more than a token. I think it would ameliorate that east side of the house a little bit.
Well, let's do this. I'm going to make a motion, see if somebody seconds it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a
Motion to
motion.
what?
Well, let's hear it.
I'll give you the motion. The motion is to eliminate those two pop-outs on the east and west, that the lower material be a wood siding unless they want to do something else we can talk about. Staff can decide if stone is possible through a back revision with us. Talkers, no, okay. All right. Without a presentation of the stone, it's hard for me to approve stone. So I don't think it's fair to approve
Well,
stone.
you could also consider some kind of split-faced or what is the smooth block with aggregate, for example. Hardy plank, I think, is
That's the siding.
that's the siding.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to throw out some materials that could be considered also, for instance, poured-in-place concrete with texture, to give us some guidance. Otherwise, if you say that it should be hardy plank and we see nods from the applicant, we can condition it as such.
Okay, that's what we'll do. The two removing of the two pop-outs, if the siding with the lower element as siding, and that the window surround be a wood or composite surround of a color that's compatible, and that the roof element continue on the northwest elevation, continue over so that reads as a lower first floor wall. That'll be a porch area on the side, but so that reads as a lower roof area. I'm looking at
The west.
northwest. Well, at both, but there was a question because there's no room below, but you would continue the roof as a porch. And I run that up the pole. Who's going to salute? Anybody salute that?
Michael, actually, the part of your motion that you left out is that this is a motion to approve.
This is a motion to approve with conditions.
With conditions.
Blew that twice today, okay.
And I will second that, but
It's possible too, yeah.
I want to just look at my colleagues here. That we're clear, we're approving a 4,100 square foot house on an elevated lot, elevated over a street that has stepped lots, that you could make a historical case that was not probably envisioned to be 2 stories and be that high over the eastern neighbors, whether it's this house or it was 6 houses further up.
Right.
So the motion is on the floor, and I've seconded it.
The only thing I'll add to that, which is what my colleague was just commenting on, as a consideration to think of siding also on the garage and the living room, right? Yeah, as he was drawing it, I was thinking it, so, great minds. So that would be a consideration.
Say again?
That you would do siding on the garage and the living room. Sort of the lower base siding, and then stucco on the second floor. As a consideration, just a consideration. That is my motion. That's it.
And I would just say, I'm trying to make myself feel comfortable, and maybe my colleagues here. A vote in favor of that would be that we are comfortable that not just for the immediate neighbor, that this is a decision that is compatible with that tract, that area of housing. If it was 4 doors up, would our decision still be the same?
Mr. Ford can talk to this again. We aren't allowed to deny based on that. That's not within our.
You're not allowed to deny a second story based on privacy alone, as Stephanie said earlier. However, if you feel that it's incompatible with the design of the project itself or incompatible with the surrounding properties from an architectural standpoint, yes, you absolutely have the right to.
That's different than what I was hoping for.
Do have a motion.
And a second.
Before I read back the motion and a roll call, staff also heard about the second floor mass being pushed back towards the rear. Is that still a consideration by the board?
I'm sorry?
There was discussion about the second floor mass pushing back to the rear of the lot, towards the rear.
No. There's more towards the left, but that I was commenting on.
Okay.
How about the conditions? All the conditions?
And staff's condition, correct, thank you. Would that be included as part of this motion and approval?
That we would allow?
In total?
10 staff conditions on
in
the
total
staff.
or in part?
What are we going to do about those?
Let's go keep going.
And while you're getting that out, on the windows that you clearly stated should be flushed, not recessed, with wood trim surrounds and a possible additional accent complementary color. The nail-on window could be used in that case, is what we heard. And we didn't hear a discussion about material. Typically, we hear that fiberglass or aluminum or wood is considered a quality material and vinyl should not be used. Is that something that you'd like to include in the condition?
For me, because it's a single light, it isn't as large an issue for me. My colleagues have a different issue. Usually, when it's a divided light, the material is more of an issue.
So you don't want to condition the material.
Right, I don't have a condition. For me, unless someone else wants.
I prefer metal cladding.
If then we could amend the condition, but I think you'd have to ask your colleague.
You have a
condition.
We're okay with the conditions?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
So there was a motion by Mr. Garagos.
So then we would include the 10 conditions, including reducing the hardscape, and we'd actually like to talk a little bit about this because this might be a challenge to implement. The garage is close to the entrance and should be separated further apart to improve circulation and flow. That's something that, if the board wants to include that, we'd like to see if that's something you'd like to clarify, help us clarify so that we can work with the applicant to the direction that you'd like. Eaves overhang should be opened, not closed or boxed. Columns supporting the front covered entry and balcony should be of simple square design, inappropriate weight. I think that means size. The supporting columns, walls of the rear balcony and covered patio appeal wide and heavy and should be reduced and made lighter in appearance. All windows should be either awning, casement, single hung, double hung, or combination, constructed of wood, fiberglass. I would include aluminum without divided lights. That essentially removes the option for sliding windows, and in that case, removes the option for vinyl windows. We heard to strike the number 7. Windows should be recessed from the face of the wall, and incorporate that condition as Board Member Gregos mentioned it earlier. The entry door should be a simple, clean design as shown on the front elevation that is consistent with the size of the house. Garage doors should be wood or fiberglass with a horizontal expression. Existing landscape and tree located along the east property line should be protected during and after construction to ensure the added level of privacy. Did we get that?
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
Thank you. So there was a motion by Mr. Garagos and a second by Mr. Carter. Roll call, Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Boladian?
Yes.
And Chairman Malakian? No. Okay, motion passes 3-1.
Anything else on the agenda?
We just have approval of one set of minutes.
And I believe I was absent for that.
The April 23rd, 2009.
And I was absent.
Roger, did we want to mention the May 1st meeting? June 1st meeting?
And the May 1st meeting I mentioned, the June 1st meeting I mentioned earlier, you also got a handout in front of you.
Do we have a motion? Are we okay with that? Okay.
You motion to approve the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Who motioned? I'm sorry.
I didn't. I can.
You did? Okay, was there a second?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Motion was made to approve the minutes. This will be a roll call. Mr. Baladian?
Yes.
Mr. Garagos? Yes. Mr. Carter?
I was absent for that, so I will abstain.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes. We're adjourned.